getting it back more and more
Yes.
every day.
Yeah, but they're like eating less of it. Like it's regenerating, but they're like
Every
getting
day
cold
is a little bit brighter than the day before this day.
Can both of you talk those demons into not stealing the sun anymore?
No, sorry. It's like an age-old decision that was made between like Zeus and
ancient
Hades.
pact.
Hey,
out right
demons. Hey, demons.
Won't take all of the sun, but you will afford us a little extra in the winter.
Give me
He's
some
like, I'm gonna
sun back.
steal a young girl by the name of Persephone to be my wife, and then I'm also going to release these demons to eat up the sun every day. So, sorry.
And if it really comes down to it, I'm picking Persephone over the sun because she's awesome.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
Who do you choose, the sun or Persephone or those pesky demons?
I feel like that's the name of a cologne, right? Persephone.
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 Yes.
If you're a 100,000-year-old demon, this is the perfect view.
Persephone. Uh-oh. We're getting all crazy and the show hasn't even started yet.
The show hasn't even started yet, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Science. We're going to get going right about now. The science is starting in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 703, recorded on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. Are there diamond stars? Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we are going to fill your head with a magnetic movement, monkey selfies, and human sexual desires. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Robots are everywhere, and robots are great because robots do a lot of work faster, better, and tirelessly. Yes, robots work until they don't. And when they don't, that's where humans can help. And humans helping robots get back on task while having nothing to do with the following program is exactly how I began and ended my day at work today, which is why this disclaimer is all about robots and not This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back yet again to talk about all the science that we found really interesting this week. Maybe we'll talk about robots with Justin. I don't know. No, we actually have a good plan for the show today. Happy day of science, everyone. I brought stories about space crystals, repeating FRBs, and autism. Justin, what did you bring?
Sex, drugs, and DNA.
Woo, sounds like a party. Are we having a science party? We are. Blair, what's in the animal corner?
Oh, I have monkeys, whales, and almonds.
Almonds.
Not
almonds. Please, sir. Almonds.
There is an.
Well, are they on the? Are they still on the tree or not?
Well,
because that's how farmers get almonds out of the or almonds out of the tree. It's almonds when they're on a tree, almonds when they're out of the tree. Sorry.
What?
Are they in the tree or out of the tree?
I think you're talking. I don't know what you're talking
this is
about.
More California farmer knowledge. The way that farmers get almonds out of a tree is they shake the L out of them.
But that was a long way to go for that joke.
First of all, I screwed up the joke to begin with, and then it took me too long to explain it. So it was a double fail, and I apologize. But it's almonds when you eat them. almonds when they're in a tree because I have
Nice
to shake
try.
the hell out of them.
Very well done. All right, as we jump into this show, shaking the L out of the science, I want to
let's do it.
remind everyone that you can subscribe to us all the places that podcasts are found. We're on Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, the Apple Podcast Directory, Google Play's Podcast Directory. Just look for This Week in Science. You can look for TWIS.org online as well. Additionally, you can find information about our 2019 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar because there are a few left. Get yours now. But now, it's time for science. Let's jump in. Things are moving and shaking, and the earth is quaking. Well, really, the core of the earth is sloshing and moving, and our magnetic field is changing. You've heard about this, right? Yeah,
I've heard about this forever. It's like until it flips, it's not news. Like, how can it be changing but not flipping? Like, stop. But you have brought a story.
I have brought a story. Yeah. So this week, as we are sitting here recording this podcast, the United States government is in a shutdown, and even as many government employees are working without pay or furloughed at the moment,
or finding other jobs.
That's right. The FDA is reducing the amount of weekly checks it's going to be doing on reducing its agricultural inspections. So our food supply is in danger. And on top of all this, it looks like global navigation for those people navigators who rely on the magnetic field of the Earth is going to continue to be affected by a misaligned North Pole. Because did you know there is a body, there's a world magnetic model that the world relies on for its magnetic navigation. It defines where the North Pole is. It describes the Earth's magnetic field, and it's underlying all of the navigation from stuff that steers ships to Google Maps on smartphones.
Wait, what? Hang on a second. Didn't we leave the compass behind 10, 20 years ago in favor of GPS satellites trajectory?
Yes, but that is not always. GPS is not always available, and these systems can always rely on the magnetic field, except that it's been moving and shifting, and it has shifted significantly, wandered significantly since the 1900s. And in fact, since the year 2000, it has wandered about 50% of the distance. So it wandered from about 1900 to the year 2000. Over 100 years, it went half the distance, and it went the same distance in the last 18, 19 years. So in the last 20 years, the movement has sped up.
It's accelerating.
Yes. It's and it's shifting from Canada. The North Pole used to be located, kind of in Canada. And it's in the middle of the Arctic Ocean right now, headed towards Siberia. It has shifted significantly since 2015, which is the last time that the world magnetic map was updated. There was a significant jump in 2016 that really adjusted the maps as we know them. And so, the world magnetic model was adjusted in 2015. And so navigation was updated and everything was working based on that model. But now, since 2016, since this big jump, it is significantly off by a number of degrees. And it is continuing to move, and they need to update this model. However, they were going to do it this month on January 15th, but it has been postponed until the 30th because of the ongoing U.S. government shutdown. I mean, it hasn't been updated for a couple of years, so what's another month? But
so it sounds like it's shifting towards Siberia. So you should really just make the Russians do this research. It's their problem now.
Well,
Will you guys find the North Pole for us? Thanks.
I feel
Right.
like everybody should just get off of the magnetic pole system. I mean, how can it be possible that there's not access to satellites and anywhere on this planet at this point?
You can't always rely on the technology. What if there's a solar flare that takes out power grids, that knocks out satellites? What if that communication doesn't work? What we have, you can go back to star charts and the compass. And if we know where if we have an idea of where the North Pole is, then people can navigate accurately. I get what you're saying. Yes, we should be able to move past this, look down on our planet from above, from a bigger picture. But this is still a big part of how navigation works. It is an essential part of it. And the big thing is, like we've been talking about for years, we are at a moment in geological history where there should be a pole shift, a magnetic pole shift taking place. And we are seeing small outbursts of magnetic activity as poles pop up periodically around the globe. But this main shift is actually very interesting because it indicates that the core is shifting.
So when it happens,
going on.
when it happens, I doubt that I would recognize that my toilet flushes in the opposite vortex.
I
but
don't think that's going to make it. I don't think that's going to change that because that's Coriolis forces and not.
I will note. Oh,
not
I will
magnetic.
note that people start having Australian accents.
Yeah. So, bit of history
Is that what's
here.
going to happen? Is that how this works?
I don't know, but a big bit of history here for those of you who are interested in trivia. In 2018, the North Pole crossed the international date line into the Eastern Hemisphere.
Interesting. So what kind of, to follow Justin's question and to recap, because I know we've talked about this before, but we also talk about a lot of things, so I need a refresher. What actual impact on my life would there be if the poles switched?
Not much. I mean, the issue.
Battery terminal is going to need to be reversed.
The issue is this kind of model of the magnetic activity of the Earth. It will affect ability. If you're using the magnetic field for navigation, it will affect that field for navigation. It will affect some technologies that are being used. It will affect animals that rely on magnetic cues for their navigation. Yeah, pigeons and birds. And bees. Bees, right? These organisms that rely on the magnetic field may have issues. However, if it happens, we don't know how it happens. We know it happens, and we say it happens quickly, but that's geological time. So geological time quickly is this a few hundred years? Is it a few thousand years? And if it is something that the North Pole shifts and meets where the South Pole and North Pole over several hundred years move around the planet, then it's really not going to affect anything because animals can adjust and our technology can adjust.
Yeah, I've never heard of a mass extinction event tied to a magnetic polar shift, right? But on the other hand, I've never also heard of a society that has advanced electronics technologies. But it's not like you have different polar electronics in the South Pole and the North Pole, so I think our electronics will be fine. This seems like one of those massively overblown Y2K type things.
For the average person, you don't have to worry about it. It's the people who update the software, who update the global models, who are, this is it.
So another reminder of what government does for us that we might be forgetting about.
The North Pole.
No. But how many times do we think this has happened in the Earth's history?
Every
a lot.
Not that long.
A lot.
60,
a lot.
160?
Yeah, it happens every, I forget, 46,000 years, 60,000 years, something like that.
Oh yeah, just like it was yesterday.
Was that
Yeah,
right?
more frequent than we care to.
Yeah, it's
understand.
fairly frequent. I mean, I probably got the number wrong. I don't have that off the top of my head. But yes, it happens with a surprising frequency.
I'm gonna Google it.
That's good to know.
Yeah. But you know what is also probably very surprisingly frequent in the universe?
What?
Stars made of diamond.
Oh yeah, stars
Yes.
though, not. Oh.
Stars. Yes, this is so interesting. There is news out this week. Researchers looking at from the University of Warwick and elsewhere using the European Gaia telescope to look at white dwarf stars around the universe. And our own sun is going to turn into a white dwarf. It'll be a red giant. It'll expand out. All of the planets in the solar system will get burned up, and then it'll smash back down on itself. It'll go nova, not supernova because it's not big enough. It'll blow off all of its light gases, and the hydrogen and the helium will go floating off into space. And then it'll be left with some heavy elements. It'll be left with oxygen and carbon, and it'll be smushed, and it'll smush itself down during that nova, and after it blows its gases off, it'll turn into a white dwarf, and it'll be really hot for a long time, and then it'll cool down, and eventually it will cool to a point where it will be able to transition from a plasma to a liquid. And so these elements, oxygen and carbon, will go from being this plasma, and it'll become liquid. And the core of our sun will turn into liquid metal oxygen, and then it'll cool to a point where it will start to crystallize. And so we'll have a core of solid oxygen crystal surrounded by a shell of diamond, of carbon. The carbon will crystallize, the oxygen will crystallize, and it's going to be amazing. It's like an M&M with a diamond crust and an oxygen core.
You lost me at oxygen crystal.
Right? Yes. So it turns out that oxygen, it will cool into a crystal lattice, because the way that the chemistry takes place, the electrons in the core will get shifted off, and it'll push carbon outward, and the oxygen will stay in the interior of the white dwarf star. And as it cools, it'll get to a temperature where it'll make that shift from gas to liquid to solid. And as it shifts to solid, it will crystallize, and the oxygen atoms there'll be an O8 configuration. So it'll be hexagons of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
All of their orbitals will be filled up by other oxygen atoms, and they will be just crystallized, connected to each other.
So this is Wikipedia, but this is showing me what red oxygen looks like.
Yeah, and it'll be reddish in color. That's right. So the interior...
It'll be red?
The interior of this white dwarf star will be reddish in color because of the oxygen.
Does that have anything to do with like rust and oxidization and how that's red, or is that totally unrelated?
That's a very good question.
Where's our chemist? Will you call him in?
Wait.
So I know I'm not gonna answer that question, but it's a great question.
I think this is actually rather simple. Picture ice without hydrogen.
Yeah,
okay.
Ice with no hydrogen.
My brain can't.
It's like, wait. Well, here on Earth, we don't have the conditions for oxygen to really do this. We can't model this exact system here on Earth. And what they found in this study of these white dwarf stars, they looked at their luminosity, their brightness, the color that they were giving off. Right. Kevin Unique, thank you very much. The red in rust has to do with oxygen and iron.
Thank you.
Totally unrelated, but the
coincidental, to say the least.
The spectra of this oxygen crystal will be reddish.
All right.
But anyway, they looked at the luminosity, and they looked.
doctor or is it a computer generated I always like this is one of those things like did we assign a color to this thing or
This is
is
the
it
this is the
actually
core. This is the
wavelength?
core. I mean, we're talking about a white dwarf here. It'll cool,
Yeah.
eventually cool to be somewhat reddish. That is something of the light that we measure
Wavelength.
over time. Yeah, the wavelength. But what they determined, there 50 years ago, there was a prediction about these white dwarf stars that with the lifetime of these stars and how they mature and go through their developmental cycle, that there should be a stage where they get to a cooling point and they release a bunch of heat and crystallize. And this was predicted, but it had never been directly seen before. And with this Gaia telescope and this experiment that these researchers did, they have for the first time confirmed this prediction. And they found a larger number than expected. Well, than what they had originally thought, but based on the prediction, it lines up. A larger number than expected of stars, of white dwarf stars in this cooling phase. And the cooling, the fact that they found this, it means that some of these stars are the cooling takes longer than they thought, and that some of these stars are older than they thought. And what this means is interesting because white dwarf stars are used to kind of age or date the neighborhood that they exist in. Like, oh, we see the white dwarf star. We can kind of say it's that bright. It's this color. So we can kind of guess how old its neighborhood is.
Yeah.
But now they're like, oh, maybe these neighborhoods are a couple of billion years older.
It's a couple of billion years in a 13 billion year old universe.
Yeah, it's still within, according to an astrophysicist, astronomer from Boston University who answered my question, my plea for help on Twitter. This is within about 10 to 20% of accurate. So if you're within about 20% of accurate, they think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good, but it's also, we humans and aging the universe are like flies that live for 3 days and try to determine the age of a lawn. Lawn grows and
how long has it been here? Yes.
How long has this thing grown? Like we have still shot picture frames upon which to confer this information, and we've made fantastic discoveries about distance of an object and the age of it because of the speed of light that we can sort of begin to but all of our candles, we assume that all supernova are 1A certain brightness, and that is exactly how we define the distance from us and therefore how far away an object is. And as we've been learning from the interview we did a few weeks back, gravitational waves have a little bit different answer than the candles 1As that we have previously conceived of. And neutrinos, when they hit, they have a little bit different answer than the gravity waves. And so we are still in the process of learning how big and old our universe is. And for something actually as small as a sun of this white dwarf sun or whatever it is, to have a 20% shift, even in something that is in the universal scale, a very small object, which we should have pretty well defined at this point, giving itself a 20% swing is pretty darn significant as you scale up. And
and so his Dr. Hermes from Boston University, he said that the knowing in the age of any star that's 10 billion years old to better than 20% is really hard. So not just the white dwarfs, but any star that's that old is really hard. So as we get better observations of faint white dwarfs, we can calibrate models and improve our ages. And in most cases, he says, white dwarfs are still the best game in town, even though their ages have become a little less well defined with this study. But the exciting step forward is that now we understand that this predicted crystallization step going from, it's a phase transition from liquid to solid. This crystallization occurs in these white dwarf stars. And now that we have found evidence for it, we can move forward with our models of star life cycles and how old the stars are, and it'll help us understand cosmic neighborhoods that much better. And our sun is a pretty common sized sun. So most stars aren't big giant ones. They're probably kind of average sized stars like ours. And so that means it's a lot of white dwarfs. There's a lot of diamond crusted stars out there.
And
when you look at the night sky, you're not just looking at twinkling stars, you're looking at twinkling diamonds in the sky.
Oh yeah, but I'll also throw out here at the end of this too that the 20% range of accuracy of understanding is probably right and correct for some stars, 20% in either direction. The idea that there is a systematic, a reliable like candle of accuracy in star formation and then death is ridiculous. They're all going to have slightly stochastic existences.
It's just one of the these white dwarfs are just one of the tools astronomers use. One of the tools. Yeah. And they usually use multiple tools and test them against each other.
Oh, of course they do. But I mean, also within that, there is no a white dwarf star lives for this long or exists that long and then does this in its end. It's going to be different for each one. It's just how the universe works.
I don't know. I don't know that every star is like, a person with all that variation. Chemical processes, man.
It is, but it depends on the chemicals that are available to process. And they're not equilibrium. This is not a homogeneous universe.
It is not. We're heterogeneous. Thank goodness for that. And on that note, another finding, fast radio bursts. We've talked about the really weird repeating fast radio bursts are these millisecond energy pulses, radio waves. It's super fast and then they're gone. And they're hard to study because they don't stick around. They just fast radio burst and then they disappear. And we found a galaxy. We found a galaxy out far away that is a repeating fast radio burster. And at this point, we used artificial intelligence to be able to measure and find all these fast radio bursts. And last year, it was reported something like on the order of like 90 or so fast radio bursts had been detected from this one FRB. And it's amazing because like, why is this one repeating? Reliable. Yeah, what's happening?
Someone trying to talk to us?
Right? What's going on? And we haven't found any other repeating fast radio bursts until now. Researchers have published in Nature this week the discovery using the CHIME experiment, which is the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mass Mapping Experiment in British Columbia, to discover a new repeating fast radio burst. It's one of 13 newly discovered fast radio bursts, and it's repeated. It's repeating, and so it's a new signal in the sky that we can maybe look at to study the properties of fast radio bursts because it happens over and over again. And that's why they're excited about it. This repeater is over 1.5 billion light years away. So it's not anywhere close to us. It's really far away. But it's this loud signal that is pointed at us and that we're able to record, and we don't really know. I was looking up fast radio bursts in Wikipedia, and there's one story from a few years back of what was thought to be a repeating fast radio burst discovery that was really somebody in the telescope facility opening the microwave in the middle of the cycle.
No. What?
And they thought it was a repeating fast radio burst, but it was really the energy, the microwave energy that was released
Oh
from the
my
microwave
gosh.
when the door was
Wow.
open before the microwave stopped.
That's hilarious.
So these are sensitive machines that are
Yeah.
detecting these fast
Okay.
radio bursts, and there are a lot of signals that could be noise or that could be microwaves that have to be counted out when they're discovering fast radio bursts. But
So it's aliens opening microwaves
That's
far
right.
away.
there we go. Yep. Yeah, we don't know what they are yet. We have no idea. There are theories for what cause FRBs, but we do not know. But now we have 2 that we can potentially study, and maybe we will find more with this CHIME experiment. This is the CHIME experiment, somewhat like the LIGO Virgo experiment. This was discovered pretty much as soon as they turned it on. So we will see what comes with more analysis and care.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Justin.
Justin thinks it's aliens.
No. I was just
Not aliens.
LIGO. You're talking advanced LIGO worked right away. There was a lot of LIGO that could pick up nothing but like trucks passing by.
Oh, that's true. Yes, that's right. Yes. Yes. Very true.
You know, microwaves, trucks, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was like, either we found a gravity wave or a squirrel is bearing a nut somewhere within 30 miles of our facility.
There
It
you
could be
go.
either one. We're not really sure. That was like the first LIGO.
This is This Week in Science. Hey, Justin, what did you bring?
I brought no story. Oh, no, I did bring a story. Okay. So, this is every once in a while, I find a story where scientists attempt to study sex. And I go, really? You didn't pay attention to any blues or jazz songs over the last 50 years? Okay, so here we go, though. What's the best way to see if that interesting boy or girl is worthy of a good long-term relationship? Or
Science
simply
says.
an invitation to the blues? Team of psychologists from the Israel-based Interdisciplinary Center Herzliya and the University of Rochester's Department of Clinical and Social Sciences and Psychology have looked into the dilemma of go or stay, what's best to choose. And they conclude that sex may play a major role in encouraging the formation of long-term attachment.
It might.
Sex may set the stage for deepening the emotional connection between strangers, says studies lead author Gert Birnbaum, social psychologist, associate professor of psychology at the IDC. This holds true for both men and women. Sex motivates human beings to connect, regardless of gender. Study, in this case, was limited to heterosexual relationships. Apparently, because they don't know anybody. According to Birnbaum, some believe that men are more likely than women to initiate relationships when sexually aroused, but when one focuses on more subtle relationship initiating strategies, such as providing help, this pattern does not hold true. In fact, both men and women tried to connect with potential partners when sexually aroused. So they did 4 interrelated studies. Participants were introduced to a new acquaintance of the opposite sex in a face-to-face encounter. Researchers demonstrate that sexual desire triggers behaviors that can promote emotional bonding during these encounters. Quotey voice again. Although sexual urges and emotional attachments are distinct feelings, evolutionary and social processes likely have rendered humans particularly prone to becoming romantically attached to partners to whom they are sexually attracted, says co-author Harry Reese, professor of psychology and Dean's professor of art, science, and engineering at the University of Rochester, who, again, has never listened to a blues album,
So-
a jazz album, or a spoken word thing about love, life, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay.
This isn't sex though. This is sexual desire. Those are like two very different things.
Very different.
So what this is saying is if you're attracted to them, there's a better chance of creating a relationship. Oh, but I think also the just to mention if I put the like super sciencey variable testing hat on, it kind of makes sense that they would start with heterosexual couples because there's male female, there's male male, there's female female. They didn't want to throw extra variables in their first time through, I would assume. So next time they would want to see, because they were testing in male-female relationships, how this affected males and females. If you then start testing these other variables of male-male to female-female, you could do that, but those are extra kind of levels to the study that, as we're talking about it, sound maybe unnecessary.
No. Well, so what would be interesting from those studies would be to see if there was a distinct strategical difference between a male-male or a female-female versus the heterosexual. I mean,
and I think that would be like the next step in this avenue.
Out gender strategy role. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm guessing, and I don't know the researchers, but that's what I'm saying. I'm guessing that this was their attempt to narrow down to as few variables as possible on their first round of whatever this was.
Right. Study one.
I guess.
Study one included 36 women and 22 men who lip synced to pre-recorded music with an attractive, I don't know who decided it was attractive, opposite sex study insider. Okay. Afterwards, participants rated their desire for the insider, who they believed to be another participant, which is sort of interesting because then it makes me immediately think that like
microphone
people putting out study are bringing out like their nephew, who like he just never meets anybody. Maybe because it's like they believe the person to be another participant, but apparently they were a ringer. They were somebody who was selected because they were attractive.
An attractive ringer. Yes.
Attractive ringer, right? Scientists found that the greater the participants' desire for the insider, the greater their intimacy behaviors towards and synchronization with the insider was. Study 2 replicated the findings with 38 women and 42 men who were asked to slow dance with an attractive opposite sex insider, who again they believed to be a study participant, but was likely somebody who was picked up at a local gym. Again, the researchers found a direct association between the synchronization of body movement and desire for the insider. Study 3, 42 women, 42 men, and established casual connection between activating the sexual behavior system and behaviors that help initiate relationships. In order to activate the sexual system, the researchers used a subliminal priming technique in which they flashed an erotic, non-pornographic image for 30 milliseconds on a screen, which participants were not even aware of seeing. Next, participants interacted with a second study participant, essentially a potential partner, discussing interpersonal dilemmas while being videotaped. Afterwards, judges rated the participants' behaviors that conveyed responsiveness and caring. Scientists found activation of the sexual system, this subliminal priming, also resulted in behaviors that suggested caring about potential partners' well-being. And I don't know, have you guys ever heard of the movie The Boy Next Door?
No.
I've not heard of this. Okay. So they had 50 women, 50 men. Half the group watched an erotic movie, which was, again, they say not pornographic, called The Boy Next Door. The other half watched a movie about rainforests in South America. Then they were assigned an attractive opposite sex insider, again, a ringer, and told to complete a verbal reasoning task. The insider pretended to get stuck on the third question and asked for help. Researchers found that the participants who watched the erotic movie scene were much quicker to help and invested more time in helping than those who watched the video about the rainforest, which is where I'm an outlier. I'm just going to say this. I find rainforest videos extremely erotic. And then like people
Right.
like it's a huge turnoff. So I would've been
let me
out.
just give you a very quick 2-sentence rundown of what the boy next door is.
Okay.
When a handsome, charming teenager named Noah, played by Ryan Guzman, moves in next door, newly separated high school teacher Claire Peterson, played by Jennifer Lopez, encourages his friendship and engages in a little bit of harmless, or so she thinks, flirtation.
Okay, that's horrible.
So she thinks.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
All right.
what this is really, I mean, it seems like this is showing that there is desire, and
Yeah.
when that desire occurs, people are more likely to do things that lead to connection and bonding, like
Mhm.
helping
Yeah.
and
No,
mirroring
it-
somebody's body movements. And I
Yeah.
mean, like you said at the beginning of this, why did they do this study?
Yeah. So I think I just know from my personal experience, I definitely have friends who are like, "Oh, this guy seems great. Maybe I'll grow to be attracted to him." And then other people that go, "Oh, I'm attracted to this person. I want to get to know them to see if I would want to date them," right? And I think that second avenue is the much more common one, where the physical attraction comes first, of course. But I think that might be part of this, is kind of to identify exactly what order is best,
Yeah.
which I'm not surprised.
So the other thing in this is that the idea that sexual attraction is a lead-in to relationship strength. Also, sexual attraction is also the lead up to a horrible relationship that lasts way longer than it should, and is because the sex is good. Like if the scientists don't understand sex and are trying to quantify it scientifically, the data is in the blues, the jazz, the rock and roll lyrics. It's in, like, it's already out there. Just go and quantify what the poets and the musicians have been screaming about, what love is and isn't for all of this time.
And we've talked on the show a bunch about how the act of sex releases hormones that include the oxytocin, which is kind of this bonding hormone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why
the oxytocin can be released because of those other bonding activities, like
That's also
helping
true.
and body mirroring and all the things.
Absolutely, yeah. But sex is one of those things that can also result in that. So
Yes.
it all kind of follows along the same line of sex is part of a relationship. So it's part of the equation.
That it is.
There you go.
Part of the equation. Justin, do you have another story for right now, or is it time?
I do. I have one right now, except that my interwebs seem to be broken. But really quickly, I will spit this out. There is apparently a new medication that in one dose successfully protected non-human primates against infection from all strains of Ebola. We have a potentially Ebola cure. This is findings are now available in Cell, Host, and Microbe journal. Yeah, so they created a one bug, one drug that worked spectrum. They tested it against, in non-human primates and ferrets against the Bundibugyo, the Sudan strain, as well as the deadly Zaire strain. That was the recent-ish 2013 epidemic in West Africa, which is currently breaking out in the Democratic, but not really Democratic, Republic of Congo. So it's kind of like they haven't done the human trial yet, which they got to do. But the thing that kind of puzzles me is, isn't the whole point of Ebola the fact that it's bushmeat and it doesn't kill non-human primates? Like, isn't that how it sustains and survives? Like, got to do the human trial. You have to do the human trial to see if it works. The whole idea that we found that we can knock out Ebola and things that are sort of impervious to the effects of Ebola is not quite Okay. So
what I'm going to imagine, though, is that the really lethal strains, these strains do kill the primate relatives of ours as well. That it does cause them to be incredibly sick and to kill them. Yes, the primates are vectors and a reservoir for Ebola. So it does. Yes, there is that aspect, but you don't just go straight to testing on people. Yes, we have to get there,
no,
but
you're right.
you
Yes.
have to show safety, efficacy, and that seems to be what they have done.
Yeah, and if this pans out, Ebola, which is one of the scariest sort of pandemic-y things, may have just met its match with this little biotech company who's going to make
Yeah.
it.
The exciting thing is that because part of it is we have multiple strains because the Ebola virus mutates and evolves, right? And so,
Right, so
how do you protect against all of them? And this is the kind of step that we need. Yeah.
It is, because as part of their claim is that it's the fact that it's spectrum of the Ebola viruses that are out there. They expect it to work on future evolutions because it's working upon some core aspect of the Ebola virus that is essential for the virus to exist, but isn't reliant on the little mutations that take place upon the edges.
Yeah, we'll just go put it in the water supply. Good.
Yeah.
Just go blanket the jungle.
What could go wrong? Symptoms of Ebola in monkeys include fever, decreased appetite, and sudden death.
Which makes them easier to catch and eat.
And many of these primates are also meat eaters. And so if they're eating other primate species that are carrying the virus, then it spreads. And that's what's going on.
Wait, monkeys eat monkeys?
Yes. All the time. You weren't aware of that? Okay. Sorry, everybody. If you weren't aware of it.
You're only afraid of monkeys now? Have I taught you nothing?
I know, Blair. Blair's been on it. But, it is time right now for Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels.
What you got, Blair?
I have a story about zoonotics in monkeys. How perfect.
Of course you do.
Oh my God. So this is a slightly different study along the exact lines we were talking about, though. This was more of a social science side of zoonotics in monkeys, between monkeys and humans. And this was a research project carried out with populations in Cameroon, looking at how they interact with non-human primates, and looking specifically at what behaviors could put people at risk for infection with new diseases. In those areas, zoonotics are 60% of emerging infectious diseases, and of those zoonotic diseases, 70% come from wild animals. So some are coming from livestock and things like that, but the grand majority is coming from wild animals. And of course, because we and monkeys are so similar genetically, it's very easy for stuff to go back and forth. That's why if I had a cough when I was working with primates, I had to wear a mask because I didn't want to get them sick, right? We're so similar. So knowing all of that, they did surveys, they did data collection, oral history interviews, and wild meat surveys to try to see a full picture of exactly how people in southeastern Cameroon were being exposed to zoonotics via non-human primate species. This is in 2016 and 2017 and included information from multiple villages and hundreds of people. And they found that Cameroonian adults had frequent physical contact with primates and more with monkeys than apes, which makes sense because if you think about it, the monkeys are always running in there to kind of raid people's pantries and steal all sorts of stuff. But the apes are a lot more secluded. They stay kind of in the bush, as it were. So knowing this, it's mostly the monkeys. but a little bit of apes. Most of the contact is through exactly what Justin was talking about, hunting for bush meat. So they were hunting for food, butchering, preparing, and consuming meat, but also injuries sustained from these animals, especially gorillas, which is pretty surprising. 85% of respondents had eaten primate meat in their lifetimes, which we know. We know that the food is not overflowing in these villages. And so bushmeat is something that it's not like, oh yeah, I want to eat a monkey. It's I'm out of food. What is around? It's not easy to catch a monkey. This is something you do when you're
unless it's got Ebola.
Unless it has Ebola, that's true. But so this is something from bushmeat, and for the most part, about 85%, and the exposure was directly related to the relative density of non-human primates and their proximity to human settlements. So this give and take between monkeys and humans is causing a lot of movement of zoonotic diseases. Knowing this, which again, it's not too surprising, but we have some of the data now. Knowing this, national and international authorities could move to support improved surveillance, to protect these monkey species, and help circulate messages about the dangers of monkey meat and safe meat handling, how to cook it high enough to not actually get yourself sick from it. And so this is something where there's ecological science, there's biological science, and there's social science all kind of working together to attack this. But I think what makes it so interesting to me is that we talk about the dangers of bushmeat and how it's affecting populations and how you don't want to interact with monkeys in the wild and take a selfie with them because it imprints them so they'll stop looking for their own food and all this kind of stuff. But if you tell people they could get sick and die from eating monkey meat or playing around with wild monkeys, it might change the narrative a little bit of like, oh, don't hurt the monkeys versus, hey, this is a hazard. Stay away from the monkeys.
Stay away from the monkeys. Stay away from fellow humans as well. No, in terms of the cooking, yeah, I was going to say though. I mean, we have education in the U.S. for you should cook pork to such and such a degree so that it gets rid of the trichinosis, right? You cook poultry to a certain level, 160 degrees, 65 degrees, so that you get rid of salmonella risk. I mean, these are public education campaigns that have gone out time and time again to try and educate people and keep them healthy. I mean, and it could work. Absolutely.
So in Madagascar, bushmeat is a huge problem for lemurs. Lemurs are hunted for their meat all the time. And it's for by and large because communities have chickens or rabbits or whatever they may be, and they get sick. The population of this livestock gets sick and they all die. And then this village is left without a food source. So actually what some projects have started doing, which is seen a great stride so far already, is they'll fly American and European vets out with chicken vaccines, and they'll help villages establish a chicken population, vaccinate all the chickens, teach the people who live there how to make and then administer the vaccines. And then people have actually stopped hunting lemurs because they have this very bountiful, renewable resource of chickens right outside their house.
There you go.
Yeah. So knowing this is the first step to kind of starting that path of communication of, hey, these monkeys are making you sick. Let's find a way to get meat to your family or your village or your community that that is safe, that is, ecologically better, but also is easier to keep healthy and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's an interesting angle to look at the plight of bushmeat from. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I was very surprised to learn that zoonotics wasn't a practice of hypnotizing zoo animals.
Yeah.
This is what I've always thought that meant.
Nope, not really. What's next, Blair?
Singing humpback whales. So we've talked on the show before about how humpback whales have these amazing songs. They have a whole vocabulary. And in the in the areas that are kind of well connected, these different populations of humpback whales will trade and share songs. We could talk about this kind of mid last year, maybe, or maybe I just saw it. But everyone, look up that story. It's very cool. They'll trade songs. It's not surprising. Whales are very smart. They're very vocal. It all makes sense.
They're like, hey, what's on your Spotify? Can you send me that song? Oh yeah, that one's great.
Yes. So this new study is looking at 2 humpback whale populations that occupy completely different ocean basins. This is the South Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. And this is in the southern hemisphere. And they wanted to see how these songs exchange among these kind of more isolated groups. And what they found, this is a study from WCS, the Wildlife Conservation Society, who's been studying whale song for probably 20 years at this point. University of St. Andrews, Stony Brook University, Madagascar National Parks. All these people work together to look at the whale songs and really synthesize them and figure out what was going on. They transcribed more than 1,500 individual sounds recorded between 2001 and 2005. They compared song similarity using statistical methods. So somehow you can boil music down to statistics. I guess it makes sense. You have the frequency.
Yeah, no, it does. It does make sense. Yeah, the waveform that you have there are you can note certain syllables and frequencies, and birdsong. They use statistics to analyze the song all the time.
I love that. So they'll boil the song down to song units made of moans, cries, or other vocalizations. And then those song units are put back together into larger phrases, which are called themes. Different themes are produced in sequence to make a song that is then repeated for hours to days. And for the most part, all males within the same population sing the same song type. There's a very strong similarity between a population of whales. And this population-wide similarity is maintained despite the fact that members die, new members are born, there's a kind of evolution and change in the song. It moves with the group, so that they kind of consider it hit songs. It's like the top 10, right, for the group.
It's like having the same accent, right? Or having this, yeah.
And so
or language or a bird song or what have you.
Absolutely. And so we know that some song learning can occur between populations that are in close proximity. But this was interesting because these 2 animals are in completely different basins and they're not in the same space for very long. Usually when two populations of whales will kind of converge in their song type, it's when they share a mating ground. So they're together for a while. But these guys, they're pretty separate. And so in 2003, they saw that the songs sung by one set of whales in Gabon was more elaborate than those in Madagascar. In 2004, they shared the same themes. And then both whale groups in 2004 had dropped the same 2 themes from their previous year's song type. So it was like they were out of fashion. They're like, oh, nobody's listening to that anymore. And then in 2005, songs being sung on both sides of Africa were very similar. There were individuals in both locations singing songs with the same themes and order. So there's this... Whoa.
Whoa, that's a very flirtatious whale. I will just say that right there. No, don't complain. I can see Look, yes, you're being flirtatious. Like, okay. Whoa. Hey, don't get fierce with me. Oh, look. Whoa. That's a little too much. That's more aggressive whale lingo than I can handle. But she was a beautiful whale, by the way.
Indeed. So what this study tells us is that there's this communication from pretty far away happening between these whale populations, and in very short kind of spurts of time. So even though they're close enough perhaps for them to be able to hear each other, they're not together and for very long. So this completely changes the way that they think that whale populations trade sound or songs and how they move between different seascapes. So they want to take a closer look at how these animals move now to see if they were wrong about their migration patterns and all this kind of stuff. But it's very cool that these whale songs in some ways can travel the world.
They do. Yeah. It's amazing.
And one possibly interesting thing, and also which means it's possibly not interesting at all, is that the those low tones that we kind of heard really at the end are likely to travel a much further distance. And the high tones, even though they seem loud when we're hearing them, are maybe whispering. Like the higher tones are more likely like, I'm going to tell you who's really close to me by saying something in a high tone. But then when I'm going low tone, it's because I want everyone everywhere. I'm posting this on Facebook. This is a thing I can tell everybody in my friend-ish group, acquaintances as well. I'm going to tell everybody this low tone. But when I go high tone, it's only the people close to me who can hear it.
Whoop, that's just for you.
Yeah, the whoop is and every man believes that whoop is just for him. But yeah, so because the way that sound travels, those lower tones go much greater distances than the high tones, and so I wonder if there's then some connection between a local communication and a broad band sort of communication based on a choice of tone. That would be really fascinating to see if they're controlling not just the message that they're sending, but who has access to it.
Yep. Higher level communication. Absolutely. Yeah. And all of this is going to really help us figure out how they communicate in a much more nuanced way, and help with maybe conservation, help us really define what these groups are, how they identify with each other,
define their populations, figure out how different frequencies of sound in terms of sound pollution could affect them. There's all sorts of stuff.
Oh, sound pollution. Yeah. Do you have any more right now, Blair?
I'm going to save my last one for the quick news at the end. I think I'm all good.
All right. Well, then, everybody, we have made it to the end of the first half of the show. We will be back in a few moments for the second half of the show, where I believe Justin has brought his immune system, and I've got a story on autism and anger stimulation. All coming up in the second half. Stay with us. This is This Week in Science.
More than intuition, a lot of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion, the methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need. Put on a pair of goggles and go looking for the things I couldn't see. The answers lie somewhere within this scatter plot.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again for this episode of This Week in Science. We do appreciate you being here and learning with us, discussing with us, enjoying science with us. Now, to keep this show going, we are an audience listener funded show. If you've noticed, no advertising. This show is funded by you. And thank you so much for helping us keep this show going as long as you have. But let's keep it going longer. So let me tell you a few ways that you can help TWIS. Yes, you right out there. I know you. You can help us out specifically by heading over to TWIS.org. TWIS.org is our website, and it's the portal to all things TWIS. Over there, you can see a big orange subscribe button. Now, that is the first thing I can tell you you can help us out with. Help us get more people subscribed to TWIS. Tell people about TWIS, send them to TWIS.org, and get them to click on the orange button to choose whether they want to subscribe on the Google Podcast portal, iTunes, or YouTube. Super simple. Please help get people to subscribe. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Get us in your player once a week. Second, we have cool things. We have TWIS-related stuff. Number one, we have a calendar for this year. So if you don't have a calendar yet, or if you need another one, I mean, why not have another calendar? Pretty art from Blair. The calendar is amazing, and you can get yours by clicking on the TWIS 2019 Blair's Animal Corner image on the main page at TWIS.org. Click on it. You'll be able to purchase a calendar, and I'll mail it to you directly. If you don't need a calendar, I get it. But if you want to support TWIS through our merchandise, you can head to our Zazzle store. Click on the link at the top of the page. It'll send you to the Zazzle store, which has all of our logoed items. So mouse pads, mugs, hats, t-shirts, lots of fun things with the TWIS logo. But we also have other products with art that Blair has created in previous calendars. We've got mammoth pillows, there's T-Rex mugs, there's even tortoises and nautilus. There's so many items in there. Just go peruse our catalog. A portion of the proceeds go to support TWIS. Every purchase helps TWIS out. Back at TWIS.org, if you're not into stuff, hey, I don't need any more stuff too, but sometimes it's nice to get it to support people. But you can help us out by donating, and it's easy to donate. We have two ways you can donate using PayPal. We have a yellow button on the sidebar that click it, donate, go to PayPal, and it makes it easy to pick an amount. Or you can go to any recent show page, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes, and there are pink buttons there that will allow you to donate in a recurring fashion. $10 a month, $5 a month, $2 a month. Click those, set it, forget it. You never have to worry about it again. And you just continue to donate to us on a monthly basis. And it just helps us out every month. Patreon is the same way. And you can click on the Patreon link in our main header, and that will take you to our Patreon community where you can become a patron. Click on the big red button that says become a patron and choose the level of your support. I suggest $10 a month. It's like around the cost of a cup of coffee, really. And we bring you 4 to 5 shows a month usually, and you'll be thanked by name at the end of the show. Every episode, we say thank you, and I'll read your name off, and you're part of the Patreon supporter family at that $10 a month level or more. So if you donate more a month, then we'll thank you also. That's how you can help us out. TWIS.org is the place where you can go to really help us out and keep this show going. And everyone out there, no matter who you are or how you're able to help or not, the fact that you're listening right now is huge. Thank you for being a part of our audience. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being curious about the world. And thank you for your support. We really could not do this without you.
Can't explain things you've heard more than intuition. A lot of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion.
And We are back. We're back with more This Week in Science. And it's time for What Has Science Done
for me lately?
Good. I got someone else in here with me with the what has story. I have a letter from a longtime listener, and I would love to read it to you. It is a fantastic note. He says, "Hi, folks. I've been a fan of the show for years now, and like many of your listeners, I have much to thank medical science for. Perhaps I'll get back to you later about that. For today, though, I have to thank science for entertainment. Science is mostly the slow accumulation of facts and refinement of ideas, but I've always been fascinated by the breakthroughs that have added to the storehouse of knowledge, or in some cases, by scientific events that were just spectacular. I've seen the arrival of black holes, quasars, the cosmic background radiation, smallpox eradication, quarks, lasers, high temperature superconductors, computing from vacuum tubes to qubits, space exploration from Sputnik to Major Tom and a Tesla, the Higgs boson, plate tectonics, graphene, Lucy, Denisovans, dark matter and dark energy, CRISPR, and the list goes on. And the beat goes on. Yeah. The Anthropocene and mass extinction I could do without. But I find science and the power it has to lift the veil of ignorance to be immense fun and a great source of hope at the same time. Lately? Well, lately I've been given new entertainment by a subject that some folks thought was old hat when I was a kid, namely relativity. And it largely started with a TWIS episode. Let me explain. LIGO and its companion detectors have opened up a whole new field of gravitational astronomy for us. The detection of gravity waves has been covered extensively on TWIS, and as I'm drafting this text, I see 4 more events announced. As a byproduct, just over a year ago, 2 papers came out almost on top of each other and generated a classical movement of unintended comedy. On TWIS episode 643, Justin Jackson, with great enthusiasm, explained how the authors of the first paper using LIGO measurements from black hole collisions had been able to place upper and lower bounds on the speed of gravity at roughly the speed of light plus or minus 45%. So far, so good. He then immediately went on to describe the findings of the second paper, issued only 2 days later, which compared the newest matching gravity and gamma ray detector results for a neutron star collision. These findings prove that the speeds of gravity and light are the same to within a minuscule fraction above or below, expressed in scientific notation as numbers times 10 to the minus 15th or 16th power. Unfortunately, in reading out the numbers, Justin kept leaving out the minus sign and in the exponents, thereby effectively changing the accuracy to plus or minus about 1 billion light years per second, rather than fractions of a micron.
Yes.
He tried valiantly to explain why what he was reading out was an improvement. The look on Dr. Kiki's face as she sought to contain the resulting confusion was priceless. The whole occurrence inspired me to order a bunch of books from the library about Einstein and his work on relativity, which gave me many hours of educational entertainment and deepened my respect for a great man's genius. In appreciation, I offer the following limerick to the TWIS crew. Although Justin could not say it quite, the detectors show Einstein was right. Their dataset proves that gravity moves at precisely the same speed as light.
Yes.
Ron Hagglund from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Thank you,
Ron.
Thank you so much for writing in. I'm so glad that a moment on TWIS that our whether confusion or excitement or description in whatever way, how that it inspired you to do further search and it led you to more appreciation and more education and understanding, that this whole story is wonderful. And I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. And for the limerick that was awesome.
Yes. So good.
So good. And it's a reminder that even though, sometimes we might want to bungle the numbers a little bit, accuracy is important if we can get it right. And yeah. if we can get the numbers. Math is important. Scientific notation is important. And if you're still in college or even high school, your teachers are going to be on your back about scientific notation until you're not involved in doing that anymore if you're doing the maths. So get it right. Learn your notation. Get it right, kids. It's important to understand why these numbers work the way they do. Thank you, Mr. Hagglund. If anyone wants to join us for a What Has Science Done For You Lately section of the show, please send me an email. Let me know what science has done for you lately. Send a message to our Facebook page, This Week in Science, or send me an email, Kirsten@thisweekinscience.com. I'd love to keep doing this. Thank you so much. Justin, what you got in your jeans?
Well, there's a possibility that genes play a bigger role in the body's defense fighting ability than some scientists may have previously thought, according to results from a new study of twins from Queensland, Australia. Scientists have long known that people build their immune defense networks using antibodies, which basically is just molecules that get deployed within our bodies when our bodies are exposed to different viruses or other types of pathogens. There's strong evidence, however, that genetic factors play a key role in how effectively and efficiently the body builds and deploys these molecules. This is researchers from James Cook University, Australia, Institute of Tropical Health and Medicine, and University of Queensland. They've analyzed blood samples from a pretty decent sized group, 1,835 twins. That means it's like twice the number I just said if you're doing the math. And and thousands of their siblings who were not twins. Participants were recruited as part of the Brisbane Adolescent Twin Sample, aka BATS. Associate Professor John Miles of James Cook University said the team looked at the body's immune response to 6 common human viruses. Within this group was herpes virus, human herpes virus, parvovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, and Coxsackie virus. We were surprised to see that the power of your immune system is predominantly controlled by the genes passed down from your mother and father, said Miles. Genes determine whether you mount an intense or weak immune response when confronted with viral infection. Professor David Evans says that environmental factors shared between twins appeared to be more important in determining whether individuals who had been exposed generated the proper antibody response to a virus in the first place. The classic twin study compares traits similar between identical twins who are derived from the same fertilized egg and therefore share identical genomes. With the trait similarity between fraternal twins, which is what they were comparing against, the other siblings who are derived from different eggs and therefore genetically similar to each other as ordinary siblings, but not in the twin factor. Demonstrating that antibody response is heritable is the first step in the eventual identification of individual genes that affect antibody response. The next step in research is to identify the actual genes that are involved in tuning the strength of the immune response. Quoting here Dr. Miles, if we can identify these genes, we can eliminate imitate super defenders when we design next generation vaccines. Likewise, if we can identify the genes that are failing in immune response, we could possibly correct that dysfunction using immunomodulation. So I kind of feel like a little bit of this is tied to the recent news of genetic modification of children.
Interesting.
If we identify those heritable genes that are effective in producing a good immunological response then why would we hesitate from making sure that the next generation has that good response versus knowing that there's an ill prepared response that's going to take place based on genes, and allowing that to go forward in the gene pool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the interesting thing here for me is determining the kind of the fine-tuning aspect, that strength of response, because there are individuals who they mount an incredibly strong antibody response to certain triggers, and other people do not. So their immune systems just aren't as strong. And so if we can figure out how to accentuate some people's immune systems when they're in need, that would be awesome. Or to
And
even tamp down, modulate
yeah,
some super responses, because
Mhm.
those even can lead to
extra unnecessary
inflammation
inflammations.
cascades,
Yeah.
and can
Yeah.
lead to all sorts of trouble. So if you can figure out the genetic factors that are involved in that immune response to begin with. I mean, we know genes are essential for immune response. But
Mhm.
figuring out how that all works, that's gonna be interesting.
And so it's
Yeah.
sort of interesting, and this is going to lead to the next story I'm going to talk about later.
You wanna talk
Which,
about it now, or you wanna split
yeah, I
it
might
up?
as well get it all out of the
Just
way.
roll with it.
Open Access Journal PLOS One has a study about specific respiratory microbiome communities being linked to whether or not you can be affected by influenza. Okay, so this is another virus. It's the biggest causative agent of the flu, or group of viruses, influenza virus. It primarily targets the respiratory tract and affects epithelial cells. Epithelial cells of the nose and throat are enveloped by a complex bacterial community to begin with. And whether or not you can have a decent response to getting the flu is based on that microbiome, according to the study. So it's sort of like, okay, so the part of it is of this is that it's the microbes within the respiratory system, which are crucial to mounting a defense to a respiratory ailment. So if you are of a family that is got a good microbiome response, right, to these external forces, then you're better prepared. And it may have nothing to do with your genes, because those of a close family are going to have shared space, and therefore have a very, very convergent microbiome.
Mhm.
Right. So the taking away, and also this is the part I left out of the last story. Part I left out of the last story is at the end of that story, they congratulate themselves and show amazement that anybody from Queensland came up with anything scientifically useful. Like, they go on and on at the end of, like, I left that. They go on and on at the end of the last study about how amazing it is and how impressed they are the fact that Queensland, any university, had any impact on this, which is unfortunate. But it's sort of interesting the way that they actually design their study between twins and other siblings having differential effects, right? Like, the twins
Mhm.
were more consistent than the other siblings. So what we're ultimately circling in on is the fact that it is the microbiome which affects your ability to respond to a disease, but that your genes that you have from your parents and grandparents and great, these genes that you have, also dictate to some degree what your microbiome is going to be. And so the more we sort of drill down on these subjects of gene defense versus microbiome defense, is a probiotic going to work? Is it just your genes? the more we sort of learn that it is a community of both. Right?
Isn't this the classic nature versus nurture?
It
Nature is
sounds
your
like it.
genes. Nurture is the microbiome you were raised around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this environmental versus genetic factors again. And the answer is always
Well,
both.
everything.
Mhm.
Right. So I mean, both of these two studies, which again, like sort of how the what is science done for me lately pointed to is two different studies that say two different things within a week of each other. These two studies are saying correct things from different perspectives. One was purely based on genes and found a connection. One is purely based on the microbiome content and found a connection. And those things too are going to be connected. And it's one of those one of the things that always harkens me back, as often I do, to the fact that the highest viral load that humans have in life is before the age of 2. That is when we are most like just completely filled with our gut and respiratory systems with viruses from the age of birth to about 2 years old. We're viral pods. And after that, bacteria sort of take over. And those initial viruses that we have sort of set the stage for what bacteria will then be our microbiome. Because they're going to sort of screen in or out based on their dietary habits. And some of that is just inherited through the viruses that were in your mother and
Yeah.
the genes that you have from both parents that say what you're going to have, genes that are going to allow to be expressed at different bacterial defenses to, or different bacterial accessions.
Yeah. The interesting thing with this microbiome study, though, is they're looking for, hypothesizing that there's an interaction between the flu virus and the microbiome. And then so they look at the microbiome and they're like, oh, hey, it changed after people had the flu. So maybe that means it's interacting with the virus. But I mean, isn't it more likely that your body's immune defenses are affecting the microbiome while it's fighting off the virus? I mean, you're increasing heat, which is going to change the environment that your respiratory system microbes, bacteria are existing in as well. You're creating more snot and blowing your nose and blowing all sorts of bacteria out of your nose. There's the things that your body is doing to get rid of the virus and kill off the virus is going to get rid of and kill off a lot of bacteria as well. And so it doesn't, yes, there still could be a connection. But I don't think this study shows anything like that at all, other than what you said, Justin, which is, hey, they looked for something with the microbiome and they found it.
So you're saying this could be a classic correlation, not causation
Totally.
scenario.
Yeah, I mean, all they did was look at whether or not people had the flu and had them write down a diary of their symptoms.
Right.
Well, but also like part of it is like a lot of the diseases that we a lot of diseases that we get when we're talking about, especially respiratory, we're actually there and present. I mean, a lot of the infections of the skin were
right,
on
they're
your
on you.
skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already there. It
A
was
lot of
just whether or
people-
not they were allowed the opportunity. And so,
Yeah, a lot of
yes.
people have MRSA
Yes.
in their
It's just
noses.
by it
Just-
because it hasn't gotten through.
Yep, exactly. The bacteria compete each other into their population levels. Your immune system works.
Yes.
It's all a system. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It's one of these things that we've been talking about for many years now, between the microbiome and the genetic, and there are predispositions to diseases of these sorts. we're going to drill down at some point on a more perfect resistance too.
Yeah.
But but it is basically, I guess all these stories say it's a lot more complicated.
It's more complicated than we know right now. Or at least we're just really opening our eyes to that complexity. Autism. When does it start?
Before you're born.
Yep, there's my story.
Okay, that was just a guess, but
Justin, why you gotta ruin it by being right?
By being right. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so researchers looking at the question of when autism actually appears and when the neurological changes start taking place that lead to autism spectrum symptoms. People talk about autism as arising, as being noticeable in children around the age of 1 or 2 years old, but there's other evidence as well as from this study that it probably occurs while the child is still in the womb, and changes that take place are occurring from very early stages. And this study suggests that these early stages could be as early as 3 weeks into the pregnancy, when the stem cells are turning into neuronal stem cells and gene expression is beginning to shift the balance of certain cells into certain lineages and down particular developmental lines. So these researchers used stem cells to compare how neurons develop from autistic cells versus normal cells. And so they took skin samples from people with autism and people without autism to and made those stem cells grow, turned those stem cells into brain cells. They created a little brain organoid for these individuals. And along the way, they were like, oh, these are neurons, these are not neurons. And they started classifying the cells as they developed along the way and looking at them. And then they looked at those different cells along the way at the RNA expression. And ribonucleic acid is known to be responsible for the expression of certain genes. And so you have little bits of microRNA that travel around and help bits of DNA genes be expressed or silenced. And so they looked at what was expressed, the RNA that was being expressed, and they found that there were differences in gene activity from the neuronal stem cell stage. So very, very early on, even before neurons became neurons, there were genetic differences in the cells themselves. And so they had also found an interesting aspect to this is that they could take that neuronal stem cell instruction. There is an instruction that basically says, hey, you're going to be a neuronal stem cell. You're going to go from just a pluripotent stem cell that can be any type into a stem cell that's going to turn into neurons of any kind. There's a single instruction. They found that single instruction. And when they got rid of that single instruction and skipped the neuronal stem cell stage and went straight to neuron, that a lot of these incremental developmental problems didn't happen, and that the neurons looked in these mini organoids looked very similar between the autistic cells and the normal cells. There weren't as many differences. So whether or not an intervention is possible at like week 3 of pregnancy, which is before most women even know they're pregnant, is questionable. But it does start getting us at a point of being able to figure out how early these changes really do start taking place during embryonic development.
Okay, so there's a is it an Occam's razor? I don't know what it is. There's a difficult question in treating this as a disease. highest per capita of autism rates
Mm.
in the United States is Silicon Valley.
Right. Yes,
Okay.
it's a developmental difference, but it is potentially something that is caused by environmental factors, and that there are genetic, and it is a spectrum. It is a spectrum,
It's a
which means
spectrum, but
there's
here's the
a
thing.
number of symptoms which could have a number of causes, and they're genetic and environmental, as we were talking about earlier.
I don't know that they're environmental at all. I don't buy that for a second, by the way, which is why I said it was determined before birth. I believe it's completely genetic, and the aspect that makes
You believe.
Silicon, yeah,
You
but
believe.
the reason I think that Silicon Valley has like the highest per capita of autistic children is because of that spectrum, because Silicon Valley attracted people who were very good at large amounts of information handling. All right. These are people who are attracted to this area in the .com boom or whatever in the programming world. We're very articulate at handling large amounts of information and processing this. And this is part of the spectrum of autism, is that you will find more autistic children who are the children of doctors and Silicon Valley execs and this sort of thing, because that same sort of genetic divergence from the, I guess, average human, which allows for autism, also allows for being able to remember everything, understand everything, handle large amounts of large volumes of information. Yeah. So there is this weird connection between autism and high functioning intellect.
High functioning.
With-
And so the issue at hand is there are individuals who are severely dysfunctional as a result of the neuronal pathways in their brains and how their brain functions, and they are unable to function in society. And so that is, they're unable to function around other individuals, around noise. There is the reactionary aspects are overwhelming. And so, yes, there is I'm not going to go along with your it's all genetic, Justin, because that hasn't been shown. We have found that there are genetic influences, but not it doesn't explain everything. There are also environmental, and
I
so
have yet to see a proper environmental
and
study
so
that leads to autism ever.
no,
at any
yeah,
point.
no, but there's no direct absolute, yes, I will go
Okay.
there, but that doesn't mean there isn't something. Okay, but at the same let's not argue this because I want to finish the show and we're not done yet. And the question is, we should understand it's not whether or not we want to cure it or whether or not we want to fix it, but it is a different developmental pattern. And we should understand it. We should know why some brains develop in why most brains develop in a particular way, and why some brains, why a subset develop in a different way. These are important questions to understand.
My
What are the
question to
genetic
that is,
and environmental influences?
and I don't believe in
And that's all I'm saying with this story.
But all I'm saying is, how do you identify at 3 weeks whether or not it's autism or the next like neurosurgeon / head of a tech company / somebody who's doing TED Talks? Like, how do you tell when you have a spectrum of overactive neuronal activity?
We don't know.
Generation.
You
Right.
can't
That's
know,
what I
and
was
we don't
pointing out.
know. Yeah. We
We
can't know, and we don't know.
So don't do anything about it.
You know what? This
Don't try to
story
make us-
this story really leads me into the next story because because maybe if I had a device that that I could stimulate my impulse control or your impulse control part of your brain, the pathway, if I could electrically stimulate from the outside using transcranial direct current stimulation
Is that what you were trying
into
for?
your brain, maybe I could control your outbursts. Maybe I could control my responses. Maybe, hear ye, the verdict has decided that your sentence will be to experience anger suppression through electrical means. You will wear a device for 30 minutes every day in order to reduce your anger in public. You will do this in addition to public service in lieu of going to jail for your transgressions. So, a study published in Cortex.
Jail sucks.
Researchers used transcranial direct current stimulation to stimulate or to modulate the impulse control pathway and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And they used this transcranial stimulation. They were able to target this particular area of the brain. And they looked at people after having this transcranial stimulation for about 20 or so minutes, how they responded to aggressive video situations that would make them kind of angry. They measured their brain activity in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex in fMRI and also looked at their behavioral responses as well to see how well people were able to suppress their anger. And they found that people's anger was suppressed much better after zapping their brains a little bit. Who knew? So maybe this will become some kind of treatment therapy down the road. I don't know. We will see.
All right. So nothing in this makes any like relevant affirmations about whether or not it's effective for humans. So what do we know about impulse control? Well, we know that impulse control was a thing that was developed mostly along racial lines in the marshmallow test.
What? No, that is not. No, some people are not able to control their anger. Some people become, some people are highly aggressive and easily stimulated toward emotional responses that lead to violence.
Okay, if that's what you're talking about, then that's different than in impulse control.
Yes, I'm talking. Well, it is still in the same. It's the impulse.
People uncontrollably, that's an impulse.
You may have a vision in your head of leaping through a screen and throttling somebody, but you hold yourself back because you control your impulse.
Or I didn't have that idea in the first place.
And so it's an interesting development that we potentially could have understanding where these the nuclei that control or the pathways that control our ability to suppress our anger, to express our anger. If we could modulate that externally, either with direct current or magnetic stimulation, is this something that would be therapeutic? Could it be used to help people?
You know what I was just thinking about was CTE with football players. One of the side effects is being prone to aggression and kind of like mood swings and intense anger and stuff like that. And I wonder if it was, figured out to be worked just right for it, if it could actually help treat some of that.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's still a very small study, only about 25 people, but it is opening up.
How dare you bring such a small story? A study.
It's pretty big for an fMRI study.
Preliminary, Justin. No study is small. It's preliminary.
Here's the thing. Zapping a part of a person's brain to cause or effect is basically a lobotomy in my book.
No, it's not zapped to the point. You don't understand the nuances of the way that tDCS works. No, it is very low current. I say zap in a funny way, but it's not zapping. You feel wherever the electrodes are placed on your head, you will feel a slight sensation from the electrical current, but it is a very low voltage current, low amperage current, that is, it modulates activity. It doesn't block activity. It doesn't knock out part of your brain. It's not a lobotomy.
So basically what you're saying is that, like, though, after this treatment, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're like, oh, I guess I need to get there quicker.
Yeah, instead of road rage, maybe it would be a more nuanced, happy
Yeah.
response.
Or you'd be like, global warming and the children are dying at the border, versus after you're like, it's getting warmer and children die at the border. like I mean, like, no, but like, what, there's some part of rage that is being outraged is, I think, at some point, for a reasonable person, a reasonable thing to be feeling and thinking.
Right. And so the interesting kind of sci-fi dystopia question to this is,
how do humans use this?
How do we use this? People are experimenting with tDCS on themselves all the time. Is this something that could be used, as an easy therapy? It's something that's not controlling, but more moderating. And so you can get people. It's transcranial direct current stimulation, tDCS.
Who is doing this? Stop it. Whoever you are, knock it off.
There are people doing this to themselves.
Stop doing it.
Yes.
It's not good.
But in the future, I mean, will it be something that, criminal, you have an aggressive tendency, you are required by the court to do this. Suddenly everybody is required to do this because we need to calm society down. Or, is it,
I don't like this idea.
how does it end up being used?
But these are two very different things to me. The idea of impulse control versus just being angry. Those are two very different things.
It's doing something about being angry. It's going and hurting other people versus just being angry.
So it sounds to me like the intent of this is not to stop people feeling angry about things, but to stop them from physically hurting somebody.
Yes.
Okay, but this
very
is
different.
That's
the intent.
This is how the intent is sold. But this is not
sure.
I mean, but one of the things that caught my eye, and which why I referred to the marshmallow test, was about impulse control. When we talked about impulse control, about whether or not somebody could delay toddlers or children could delay taking a treat, came down to whether or not they were poor or wealthy, right? Yeah. And the reason was the better survival strategy for a poor child is to take whatever resource is available in front of them immediately, because they have learned by experience that it won't necessarily be there again. Where the wealthy children are used to, well, if you didn't have the treat now, you can get it later or the next day, or you can have 3 times as much at grandma's house, right? So there's some aspect of maybe even violent behavior, which is a successful strategy for survival for people who live in perhaps violent environments that throw themselves into the criminal system. And my interest in this study would be to see the outcomes of these 25 individuals who have relieved themselves of violent tendencies, but potentially live in very violent environments and survive a lot less, have a shorter shelf life of humanity, albeit violent, than people around them who haven't had the treatment. So this is the thing: when you just a human, you also have to know the environment that the human is in.
I think so. I think that's very important. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's under context is everything.
Hey, Blair.
Speaking of context.
Hey, Blair.
No.
I have one question to ask Blair, and then you can go on with the thing. Blair?
I had
Yeah.
such a good segue.
I know. I'm sorry. I'll give it back. But it's just Blair was smiling, and I just couldn't help but thinking about it. Blair, do dentists pay you to look at your teeth? Because you've got like the most perfect teeth of any human ever. And
We are
it's
doing
like,
a podcast right now, Justin.
I'm sorry. I just fell off because you were smiling. I was like, if I was a dentist, I would pay that set of teeth just so I could look at them up close. Like,
Oh my god.
that's what
Where
brings
are
me
we
to
right now? I can't.
Oh my God, I'm editing so much of this show that tomorrow. All right. I was going to say context is important because sometimes you think things are something that they are not. And this happened in the case recently of the strange noises that were thought to cause concussion-like symptoms among State Department officials in Cuba.
Cuba. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a result from this study?
No, we still don't know what caused the concussion-like symptoms, but we do know what caused the noise. And it turns out that, as reported at the annual Society for Integrative and Comparative Biology meeting this last week, recordings of the sound were released to the public through the AP, and Alexander Stubbs, who is at the University of California, Berkeley, listened to the recording and reminded of a particular cricket call that he had heard before. And he went in his database, he looked up different crickets, and he determined that the echoing call that was heard was very much like the Indies short-tailed cricket. Almost perfect match to the frequency decay within each pulse. So they looked at the biomechanics of the cricket's sound and the recording, and they have a pretty sharp match. So the sound was a cricket. The concussion, we don't know what caused that.
It was nonsense. That's what it was. It's a bunch of diplomats like, I never heard a cricket before. There was this like sound, and I just like freaked out. My brain stopped working, and now I can't remember my birthday. Yeah. Okay.
It is
Not
very
espionage.
possible.
It was just crickets, which, by the way, help me sleep, but cause Cuban like golden parachute dream job giveaways to billionaires type jobs. Gives them a reason to sue the government for more money. Go ahead.
Anyway, yes. So it's good to look into things a bit more. It may still,
Just
may
crickets,
not be
people.
crickets, but it could be a,
Crickets.
dastardly sound device. But it's crickets.
I never believed that story.
And my final story, I know Blair has one more, but my final story is about freaking I-beams. I'm staring at you right now. Researchers looked at how much people estimated an object was being pushed on, what force was being applied to an object when somebody else was looking at it, when somebody else was blindfolded, or somebody else was looking away. And they found that people actually impart a force to people's stares, and that the force that comes out of our eyeballs is the equivalent of a puff of air.
No. So you're saying like when you like get the weird prickle on the back of your neck that someone's staring at you and you turn around? No.
No, I am not saying that. That has not been proven. That idea that somebody is staring at you and you can feel their eyes, that has not been proven.
Okay.
But we have an imaginary sense that people have.
Okay, I see. When you can see it.
Yes.
So
when
it's
you
like
see
your eyes
somebody
enough to
looking
blind me. You're like looking at the sun.
Right. The force
Okay.
of your stare.
So it's we make that a real force in our brain.
Yes,
Is what you're
in
saying.
our
Okay.
brains.
Very
Yes.
cool. I like it.
The puff
So
of
is
air.
But this is going to be like subjective, isn't it, to the ideal that we've basically paste across the face of the person who was doing the looking?
No, they measured it across a few different, like they looked at multiple people and these, yeah.
No, but I mean, like for instance, is somebody who you maybe don't have any respect for. Maybe the person holds a position of, say, a high-ranking political administrative position within the United
So
States, and you
so
look at their
the
eyes,
people
and you go,
apparently that they did not test that. No, they did not. So probably the people doing the staring at the object were all neutral. I'm going to imagine that they were neutral people and not involved, not biased or a
Yeah.
biasing persona in one way or another. So that would be an interesting thing to study.
And these were
Does
people in the
force
same
change?
room, right? Same room as them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, like there's some people who stares. I'm like, what are they looking at? It must be important. And other people, I'm like, I don't. No, so I kind of get it.
Blair, tell me your last story. Tell me.
Oh my gosh.
Give me some garbage.
I want to tell you about cleaner living through plastic and garbage. Researchers at University of California, Davis.
That's what this is where I'm broadcasting from.
Hey, Davis, are encouraged by early results from collaborative experiments with biosolarization, combining the sun's heat with soil amendments to manage weeds and other soil-borne pests. So right now, there are two ways that you can treat a field before planting new crops. One, you can tarp the entire thing and wait 6 to 8 weeks for the sun to kind of irradiate this and kill all the microbes. Or two, the more popular option, you can just pour a whole bunch of pesticides all over it to clean it all out. So that's the current option because it's the cheapest, quickest way to clean the soil before planting. But this new preliminary study now has been extended to one almond farm in Chico, in coordination with the Almond Board of California. They were able to use biosolarization and a mustard cover crop to increase organic matter by 1.25 to 1.75%. So not only as efficient, more efficient than the fertilizers by putting grape skins and almond skins and all this sort of kind of trash from agriculture, layering that into the soil and then covering it in a tarp for a very short amount of time. So this biosolarization is a great new way potentially to sanitize fields before a new crop goes in. So they're going to go into secondary testing very soon, try to find their next step is strawberries, because strawberries are commonly treated with fumigants, which I didn't realize they're very porous strawberries. That's yucky. You don't peel the skin off strawberries. You just eat the whole thing whole. I don't want those fumigants. So this could be a really great one, especially for porous fruit. You can use biosolarization. You don't have the potential of getting pesticides leaking into your porous fruit. Pretty cool.
That's way better. Love it. Better living through agricultural technology.
Yes. Trash and plastic tarps for the win.
I would not have guessed that.
No.
Well,
I would not have guessed that would be the way it would go, but it did.
So sort of an interesting concept of a neutral soil. From everything that we've learned about how important the bacterial plant relationship is, it's very interesting that there is could be a benefit from a neutral soil, or I mean, I wonder if it's a detriment depending on where you're planting.
So what they said was that the grape skins, the tomato skins, the ground nut holes, which I called the nut skins before, those all promote beneficial bacterial growth, at least in the 6 cases that they've checked so far. So I think, yes, this would depend on the region. This would depend on the type of beneficial bacteria you're trying to promote, because they kill the bad bacteria, and the sun kills the bad bacteria at the same time.
And the sun. And
so I mean, I did this, but I've done this before. Like, this is how I prepped gardens in the past, is I put down clear plastic and left it there for at least the 6 weeks, where I was like really burning everything and not allowing anything to grow and yada yada.
Yeah.
But there is this aspect of how much are you neutralizing, what viruses still persist, and because the more we've learned about the interplay of bacteria and viruses in the soil and how they affect the plant's productivity.
Well, and we're not little family farms anymore. These huge farms, these huge agricultural spaces, they can't lay vacant for 6 to 8 weeks. They cannot, which is the problem. Yeah. So they have to find something faster. So this is a very promising option. I like it.
It is. And I promise that we'll be back again next week. We have reached the end of our show. I want to say, whew, we did it. That's right. I would
stories though.
Yeah, that I'm going to edit out. No, I would love to say thank you to several individuals who make this show possible. Fada, thank you so much for your help on show notes and on social media. Could not do it without you. Gord, thank you for helping in the chat room. Ben Rothig, also thank you for moderating in there. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. Our podcast depends on you. Really appreciate that. I also would like to say thank you to all of our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Paul Disney, Richard Onimus, Ed Dyer, Stu Pollock, Philip Shane, Ken Hayes, Harrison Prather, Charlene Henry, Joshua Fury, Steve DeBell, Alex Wilson, Tony Steele, Craig Landon, Mark Mazzaros, Jack, Matthew Litwin, Jason Roberts, Bill K, Bob Calder, Time Jumper 319, Eric Knapp, Richard, Brian Condren, Dave Neighbor, Aiden Jeff, Dave Friedel, Daryl, My Shack, Andrew Swanson, Paul Ronovich, Corrine Benton, Sue Doster, Dave Wilkinson, Ben Bignell, Richard Porter, Jacqueline Boyster, Noodles, Kevin Reardon, Christoph Zucknerek, Ashish Pants, Ulysses Adkins, Sarah Chavis, Artyom, Rick Ravis, Paul, John McKee, Jason Olds, Brian Carrington, Christopher Dreyer, Lisa Slazewski, Jim Drapeau, Greg Riley, Sean Lamb, Ben Rothig, Steve Lesseman, Kurt Larson, Rody Garcia, Marjorie, Gary S., Robert Beck, Greg Briggs, Brendan Minish, Christopher Rappin, Flying Out, Aaron Luthen, Matt Sutter, Mark Hessenflow, Kevin Parachan, Byron Lee, and EO. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if you are interested in helping us on Patreon, you can find information at twis.org. Click on the Patreon link. You can also help by telling your friends about TWIS. On next week's show, we will be back once again. Well, Blair, you're not going to be here next week, right? No Blair next week. But we, Justin and I, This Week in Science, will be back next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time on twis.org/live. We're also live on our YouTube channel. And if you can't watch live, that's okay. Don't worry, because the episodes are all recorded and they're made available on our YouTube channel and at twis.org.
Yes. Thank you for enjoying the show. You can also catch us as a podcast, which is still available. Just look for This Week in Science in something called a iTunes directory. Or if you have one of the mobile devices, you can look for TWIS, the number 4 Droid app in the Android marketplace, or simply This Week in Science in anything Apple marketplacey.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. You know where it is. It's www.twis.org.
What?
That's TWIS.org, where you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts or other listeners.
But if you don't like other listeners, you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twisminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in your subject line. Otherwise, you will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you tonight, a limerick in a What Has Science Done For Me Lately, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, or those two will, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you learned anything from the show, please try to remember.
It's all in your head.
This Week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. This week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just get understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address. From stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
Thank you for appreciating and enjoying our show. But now it's over. No, it's time for the post show. It's the post show. And thank you all for watching. I see you in the YouTube chat rooms. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Save me, science. Toloy, Old Scratch, Wayne, and who was Matthew is asking if is Justin drunk, and I think so. He said he was really tired, so I think he's just punch drunk. You know how you get I get kooky when I'm super tired. Kooky, just kooky. Kooky Kiki.
I'm trying to remember how to make things in the Zazzle store.
I don't know. Oh, Aaron Laura is asking, are we gonna stick to YouTube or are we thinking about Twitch? Well, I really liked how Twitch worked out last week. There is definitely something nice about having, all three of our faces up on the screen at the same time and being able to kind of talk to each other as opposed to having the little windows and the one dominant like it is right now with the Hangouts. Today, I mean, I've had to do a little workaround because the link to get me in to do this broadcast was not immediately available within my Creator Studio workspace. And I don't know why, because the words live streaming are there and I should click on them and it should have the, the live and the events and the whatever. And I should have the options and it's just giving me a 504 error. And so something is going wrong there and it's across all my computers. So I don't know what is going on there, but I was able to find the general link to be able to get to the live streaming events page that I use and to start the Hangout. And it worked. But I am afeared that it will be broken in the future, or that they will, that they'll get rid of it, that they're going to sunset this feature. I don't know why they would, but something is broken and I don't know where or what. But I do like the Twitch thing. It was really nice to do the Twitch thing. So then R and Laura is saying, if you give me a few days notice, I can switch the live page to use Twitch. Awesome. Yes, because R and Laura is the person who I want to give you props. R and Laura, you made our TWIS.org/live page. He made it possible for people to go to our website to watch the show and have the chat room right there. We would not have that option without R and Lauren. So if we do switch, yeah, it would be awesome if you could help us if we do make the switch. But I don't know. I like having the different chat rooms. I like the fact that we have live YouTube viewers. It's great. I mean, there would be live Twitch viewers as well. Adam Weaver, you liked the Twitch stream. Identity for the Twitch stream's audio was fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of compression I'm finding in the YouTube that's not in Twitch, which is interesting.
Justin, I learned tonight your microphone is very directional.
It is.
And I think you do this thing where when you're reporting on your story, you're like looking at your screen, so you're talking right into it and the sound is really good. But when you're responding to somebody else's story, you're kind of looking off into the distance as you ponder, and it's very quiet.
Well, I want to be less of a audible influence. Like when I'm commenting, I feel like it should be.
Oh, it should be the same. It should be audible.
Comment.
Not when it's going on and on and on from the back of the room. I mean, people are listening in audio in their cars, and if they can't hear you over the road noise,
people in your cars.
Yes.
In your cars.
I mean, I try and post-process and make all of the audio the same loudness, but it's hard when there's the very, very variation in the audio levels.
I don't usually notice it very much, but tonight it was definitely I think you were getting very existential over here.
Okay.
There was existential stuff going on.
So there's some
I'm gonna do a drive-by
element of genetics involved in this too.
Oh, there's not.
Yes, there is.
Not in microphone use. Microphone use is training. You know how to use a microphone.
It's a microphone. It's a microphone.
Use it correctly.
But there's also a one of the things I learned growing up heavily within an Italian community was that Italians tend to speak in the center of a room, because if they get too close to a window, they break windows when they're talking. Like there's like we have like spatial difficulties in communication, because the hand gesticulation thing will like go through a window and cause either an artery to be opened or just property damage. And so and I get that, like I also have problems staying close to the mic. This makes sense.
Because you got to back up. The microphone is not a window. It is a window,
Everything
but
is a window.
it's.
You can also back up as long as you're
Like a
still
window
pointing
to
at
my
the microphone. I think it's not
soul.
as bad. It's when this happens that it's kind of a problem. Not
I love
great.
Identity 4. He's laughing. He's like, I can totally see the Justin talking bits in the show's waveform. Kiki and Blair are the mountains, and Justin is all the valleys everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. I'll just talk louder. Like I feel maybe I'm like
no, because
That's
then if
not
you
the
talk
answer.
into the mic, it's going to be
I don't need
ridiculous.
a microphone. I don't need a microphone. I can talk like you guys don't even need to be listening through an electronic device. Just open your window slightly. You'll hear me talking.
Oh my goodness.
Good night, Fada.
No, I feel like that's for me too. When if anybody ever tells me like, "Oh, can you speak up?" I'm like, "What?"
Are
I've
you
only been told
deaf?
that like 3 times in my whole life.
You're a deaf person.
Oh my.
You need to listen up.
Yeah.
Because I was speaking coherently and articulately and loud enough for any human being to hear.
I was loud enough. Didn't you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, I bought new pillows to go with my orange studio.
That's
Teal.
not orange.
Teal.
Blue.
That's orange. And I have orange chairs, and I bought teal pillows because teal goes well with orange.
Oh yeah, I don't know these rules.
A contrasting color.
I'm talking to a colorblind person and a person
Yeah,
who
I
has
know.
a color aesthetic.
Who's an
that's very
artist? But I bought pillows to go with my orange chairs because I have dreams. Dreams of using this studio to its full potential, and I think pillows will help with that.
My kids don't let me buy pillows anymore. We're like, we go.
Where'd Blair go? Your kids don't let you buy pillows anymore? You buy too many pillows?
I have a lot of throw pillows. I have a lot of throw pillows.
And
I'm
don't
like,
let you
ooh,
buy
look,
them.
throw pillows. And the kids are like,
Stop throwing pillows at me.
we don't have a deficit of pillows in the house. We have
Hey, to the people in the chat room, if anybody wants a particular image from this new calendar on a particular item in the Zazzle store, I will put it there. All you have to do is say.
Hey, Blair, what do you think about making a coloring book?
Yeah, I already did all the pictures.
The pictures, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it.
But we could do something else, like something where a page is like it names the animals and like gives some like information about them, and then
I'm on
the
it.
picture that people can draw, and I think we can do it like we can self-publish it.
Perfect. I'm on it.
Yeah.
Coloring book coming your way.
You could take, and if you could decolor some of the images, maybe, if you have
I could
other
try. Yeah. So
like some
how
of the
many
other line drawing
pages?
ones. Because that's what I'm thinking is if you were
50.
to add some, not 50.
It'd have to be 50.
That doesn't have to be 50. But I think if like with this year's calendar, if you could, make it black and white.
Yeah,
and
I could do
get
that.
rid of some of the background and like turn it into maybe colorable images. I don't know. If some of them can be adapted.
Yeah, I could do that. I could definitely do that.
Because that would increase the number of animals and pages. Adam Weaver says 314 pages for a coloring book.
No.
50 is plenty.
And it would be kind of fun to have little, like, I don't know, maybe we could have, little animal descriptions, where they live, conservation facts.
Yeah, and I might put something about a story we reported on also, if there's good ones.
Right. Yeah.
But what would the format of choice be for this document?
What do you mean?
Like
format?
PowerPoint, PDF. Like what do you think it would be in?
Oh, how it would. Oh, I Amazon self-publishing. They have I was looking into it a while back. I can look into it again. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
But they
Yeah,
tell
let me
you.
know.
They tell
Okay.
you how to upload the images.
Okay. I'm going to put that for when I get back from my trip at like 1 p.m.
Yeah.
The day after I get back.
We could do
A
that.
reminder.
Yeah, and I think Fada quit, but I was talking with him about actually starting an email list.
Mm.
And so we could have a I think a weekly email that if each of us added something to it, not even every week, but if we had it rotating or something, then it could be, something that goes out and it would be like, hey, this is, here's the show, it's published, or don't forget to watch this next week because so and so is going to be on. And here's a couple of thoughts about this topic that I was looking at this week, or I was reading about this story and I thought about this, and just kind of, our thoughts about things, and just kind of a personal email.
So I used to do a bunch of scheduled posts on Facebook, and Facebook stopped letting me schedule posts.
Oh, interesting.
So I haven't been posting like all the stories that I love that don't make it to the Animal Corner. Those haven't been going on the internet, which is a bummer, because now every week I'm like, oh man, I wish I could share this out to the world. So if I ever find one I really like, that would be the perfect thing to me to be like, oh, hey, not on TWIS, but here's this cool thing. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I would absolutely do that. That's like it's a 20-minute lift a week. That's easy.
Yeah, it's just, a quick writing exercise, and and then it would be some basic stuff related to the show and updates about things that are coming. And and people use email still. It's like this platform that continues. As much as people complain about it, it is something that endures, and it is better than Facebook, I think. I think it is better than Facebook. Email.
Would you want to do how many? I wonder what you think the number of recipients would be, because like things like we're not doing our main podcast now, so I can talk about products, right? That's fine.
No, this is after show.
Yeah. So MailChimp is something that we use at work that works really well, but depending on how many recipients you have, it's free or not. So what is it? Up to 2,000 subscribers, which would be fine, I think, is free. Definitely to start.
I think we'd be fine just to get it started. Yeah.
So,
and then if oh my goodness, if we're able to, we get our email list going and it's bigger than that, great, I'll pay for it.
Yeah. So, do you want to use your email as a login for that? Because if you want to sign up for a MailChimp, maybe during my lunch tomorrow, I can try to make a mock-up of a newsletter. For fun.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Do you mock it up all in MailChimp?
Yeah.
Is it all in it? Oh.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, no, I got to learn how to do that, and if you can figure it out and show me how, that'd be, or
if
you want to set up the template and
Yeah, I have a lot of the stuff. So it's funny, I actually have on my to-do list for tomorrow for my 9-to-5 job to figure out how to use MailChimp. So this would be a very nice convergence, because I don't have the materials for that work yet, but I do have stuff for us. So doing this would actually fulfill my work obligations as well. So I would be more than happy to figure that out. And it's something I'm pretty comfortable with normally. So if we set up a stream of information, I would potentially be happy sending it out a lot of weeks. I think it's not hard.
Cool.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. One less thing for you to do. You have enough.
I was like, okay, I'll do this. I want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. If you send me words, I'll plop them into a newsletter for you. Easy. That's not hard.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't like plopping, but I can make the words.
Yeah. No, let me do the plopping for sure. Let's just keep saying that.
Plop.
Yeah. I have a coworker who, when she talks about sending out an email blast, she always uses the verb poop. She's like, oh yeah. I'll just put that in there and I'll poop it out real quick.
Why?
I'm like, what?
Why are you pooping emails? Who poops
so
emails?
Good.
Nobody.
It's so good.
Oh, this... Guys, I have like I should have been wearing this during the show. My Game of Thrones fur coat. Keeping me warm.
So I'll look tomorrow too. I'm pretty sure that part of MailChimp is they give you like the HTML to put a button on your website that will sign people up for the MailChimp newsletter. So you don't have to pull information at all.
That's amazing.
So I'll look further, but I'm pretty sure that's the deal, is that like you don't have to, export an Excel and then like import emails, and you don't have to do all that. It's all supposed to be in there. So we'll see. I'll look.
You'll figure it out.
I will. Yeah. Oh yeah, Growly Bear tells me I'm correct. Excellent.
It will be great. And if you give me the button, I will put it on the website.
That's great. That's great. Also, I meant to tell you, it just occurred to me the other day. I'm not going to say the words I've been learning HTML, but I've been learning how to like recognize what to cut and paste from one page to another of HTML to make things happen. Which is pretty cool. It's lightweight, got me to be like, oh, I kind of get why this could be fun.
Gem Doctor, if all my YouTube subscribers want in on the newsletter, then they shall have newsletter.
Aaron Lord's like, don't touch them. I would never, Aaron Lord. Don't worry about it. I won't touch it. But I was just thinking about it because I was like, oh yeah, I wonder how, like, does Kiki edit the website? Like,
I do minimal thing, but I ask Arlen for help if I need the heavy lifting.
I remember one time I tried to add a button and I broke an entire page. And another time, but I just closed the window. I didn't save it. I just like closed it and it was fine. But that's what I do, is I like mess with the HTML and then I hit preview.
Close.
Yeah. And I hit the preview button. And if it looks terrible, I'm just like, I just kill it. I kill the page and then I start over.
You don't look pretty. Die.
But then what happened recently, someone else who didn't know obviously something about the HTML they were editing did it. And for a while, there were a couple pages on the website that had random words underlined all over the page. It's like, I don't know what you did.
Oh my gosh. Yes, yeah. Arnler won't have to hunt you down. I'll give him your address.
Yeah. No. I'm not going to touch the HTML on the TWIS site. But I was just like, it always seemed like such a foreign concept of like editing a website. Like I've worked in a WordPress before, which I feel like is, it's like the little toddler kitchen set with the plastic fork and knife and like the plastic tub of a sink. It's like, it felt like that. It felt very like website for toddlers sort of thing, the WordPress, right? Because it's just like, let's just work in this field and just type out what you want and don't try to do anything fancy and it'll be fine. But yeah, working in the HTML has been very interesting. You get to learn the difference between a paragraph and a break And I had to learn how to turn words another color recently, which was very fun to learn because I had to do all this kind of reverse engineering to figure out the HTML to like, that's the prefix before you put the code for a color. And then I had to find out what the code for the color. It was very neat. It was cool.
Yeah. When
Anyway.
you start figuring all that stuff out,
Yeah.
I can never remember the numbers for the colors. All those color codes.
Yeah.
There are lots of links on how to self-publish an adult coloring book.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so if I get a self-published coloring book, I think I'll cry.
That would be awesome.
Well,
I wanna make it
second grade Blair wanted to be an illustrator. It's nothing she wanted more in the world than to draw for books. If I have a book, oh my God. I'll lose
Blair,
it.
no. Okay, so this is the other idea. I need to find okay. I'm gonna write a story and you're gonna draw pictures for it. Okay. You want to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Our own publication. I love it.
Yeah.
We could also, I wonder if we could publish some of our favorite well, we've been talking about disclaimers that I could illustrate, but also what has science done for me lately? We could pick some of our favorites of those that I could draw.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very fun.
Yeah, it would. It'd be super fun. I like the idea of adding some projects in here.
I love it.
Yes. I'm trying to find. Where's
Justin?
I know, he disappeared. Justin, are you there? He just put us on hold and went away. It's like I'm surprised he didn't like put in some hold music.
This is like the most traction I've gotten on a tweet in a very long time. Was my tweet tonight.
You have good traction on your tweet?
I do.
That's good. What year was that? I got to go back. Go back. I'm taking it back. I need to find a story. And I don't know what.
Kiki, do you know what today is? I forgot to talk about it.
Today is Wednesday, January 9th.
So I believe it was
anniversary.
The second show of the year was my first show 7 years ago.
7 years. Yes.
Yes. So cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think it was the second show in January because I don't think predictions were a part of the first show I was on. I think it was just a normal show. It was definitely in January. It was very early. And 2012. Pretty cool.
2012. Oh my
2012.
goodness.
I know. Kai was in that like bouncy thing in a diaper.
And now he is like so tall and he's growing and he's a little man. Oh my God.
Is he 8 yet or is he still 7?
Still 7.
Okay.
March is his birthday.
Yeah. That's right.
He will be 8 soon, and then I'll have a crisis.
Ah!
And then I'll have another year until my next crisis when he turns 9.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So right now what I'm doing is I'm looking through old stories to try and find an old story, and I don't know if I'm ever going to find it, but I'm going to try. It was like, and when I remember seeing it, we talked about, it was like a fish and it was like 2 not the same species of marine animals, and they were like helping each other out. And I remember looking at the story and I was like, this is a kid's book.
Was it the cleaner fish? Or sorry, the cleaner shrimp? And I think it was a wrasse.
Maybe.
Here, let me search on TWIS.org for cleaner shrimp. This is how I find my old stories.
Right?
I search TWIS.org.
In there.
Yeah, 29 August 2018. Is that too recent?
That's too recent.
Okay. So maybe it was something else.
It's too recent.
It was cleaner shrimp help the fish they're cleaning heal faster. But yeah, that was in August.
Yeah, no, it was older than that.
Marine animals helping each other.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm gonna look and see if I can find it. It was I don't know which episode it was though. It was something and I was like, this is a book. It will be. And it's in the back of my head, so I will find it. I will find it. Maybe not tonight though. I like this. I really hope that we'll get the email list going, and you'll do coloring book.
Those are achievable, I think, especially since the coloring book is like not actually that much work for me at all.
You've done a lot of it already. Yeah.
So that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
We just might talk in the next after show that I'm on about like the layout of the fact page and how we want to kind of sort through it and stuff, just so that we agree on the best way to move forward.
To present it.
Yeah, like I'll do common name and like genus species for everything, and I'll do habitat and diet probably, and then like some fun facts or something. We'll see.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. What was? So you're going on vacation next week
with my mom.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. Did you see the write up on the Black Widow story that we missed in December?
Write up on the Black Widow story.
Yeah, there's like a couple of the Atlantic and I think BBC picked up on this black spider story and their webs and their legs, and it's really cool.
Oh, Black Widow spiders dial up posture for survival and sex. How did I miss this?
Right? This is
I'm
so
really
up your
careful.
alley.
Like I go through the stories to the last time I look. Like I wait until I see a story that I read and then I saw.
How did I miss Black Widow spiders? Seriously, I was reading the Atlantic story earlier today, and just the picture of the Black Widow web, like I had goosebumps all over my arms. I'm like, Black Widows.
Black Widow spiders use their sensory organs, called slit sensilla, all over their bodies.
Yes.
Okay, this is very cool.
Yes.
The weight of the spider had almost no effect on the radio dial. Their hungry or pregnant, Black Widow's sensory perception isn't changed. They posture their body differently. Their perception is under their own control rather than it being out of their control. How cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very neat.
Yeah, I love the idea of these Black Widow spiders going, oh, I'm hungry. I need to make sure I catch little insects, and tightening up their posture so that they feel the high frequency vibrations of tiny things in their web more astutely. Or they relax and they chill out and they can sense the bigger things. They're just in the flow.
That's so cool. They're great. Spiders are so neat. So neat. Somebody in the chat was asking what episode was my first one, and lucky for you, I looked it up. And I talked about it on episode 700. So I'm looking right now.
I looked it up. I know.
Ooh, episode 355. January 2012. How neat. I'm just a couple episodes shy of being in more episodes than I haven't. I'm so excited for that.
You're like, yes! I'm almost over the hump.
I'm important.
Yes, you are. So important.
It's great.
Was it that one?
Then I really won't be an intern anymore, you know?
Right. Yeah, really. No more intern work for you.
Yeah. Just, you know, a nice newsletter. I'll be excited for that. I could include like updates on the calendar for next year, like pictures of sketches, pictures from the zoo, and musings.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
I think it would be great, right? It's another way to reach out and say hi to people.
Yeah, I love it.
Fish need their friends? Is it that study? No.
If I do a children's book with like a story with actually like a narrative arc, I'm definitely going to do paper cutouts. I love a paper cutout.
A good paper cutout.
I love them. These calendars turned out really good. If I do say so myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think you did great.
Oh, thank you. I think Mixbook did really good work too.
Yes.
They're good. How fun. This is so part of this process, speaking of my mom, who I'll be hanging out with next week.
Yay, Mom.
She has 3 jobs. She she's like the site supervisor for a before and after school care program. But she is also the motor perception instructor. So it's like gym for the little ones. Mm-hmm. So they're just like learning spatial awareness and stuff and coordination. But she's also one of the art teachers at the school. Oh. And so they do all sorts of experimentation with different mediums. And so the pointillism was actually her idea.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
pointillism.
Yeah.
Thanks for the inspiration, Mom.
Yeah, she has some fun ideas for next year. She's already told me about.
That's awesome.
To try some stuff out. It's great. It's pretty
Pick
cool.
more animals. Crank it out. Do the art. Hi, Purcat.
Our in-law, I didn't know it was up to a vote.
What's up to a vote?
He said, I love when we voted Blair in as an official co-host, but declared Justin as still a probationary co-host. Did Justin leave?
He did.
Oh my God, that's weird.
Why didn't he even say goodbye? What is up with that? He's like, I'm super tired and bye.
I'm gonna group text that guy.
What happened, man?
Where'd you go? We were like hanging out for you, bro.
I know. We're hanging out. We're waiting. Where'd you go? I am going to find the story. I know it's in here somewhere.
Woof.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I saw that video you sent. I think the newsletter is a really good idea. That was my big takeaway, is I do think, considering how lovely and open and fun a dialogue we have with our people who can join us live, I wonder how many people are missing out on that kind of interaction. And the newsletter would definitely help with that. That's cool.
Yeah. Hi, Stella.
Justin replied.
What did he say? I fell asleep.
I said, did you go to bed, Justin? He goes, yes. Like, You didn't say goodbye.
He didn't say goodbye. Live is always best. It is. I love doing the live show. It's something that, seriously, coming from doing the show live on the radio, and then I just really wanted to keep it live when we started podcasting. I was like, the live, this is the best part. It's the best part, being here talking to people.
I love no second takes.
Cut. Let's do it again, Blair.
Oh my God.
Like the same, but more energy, all right?
Oh my goodness.
Now that Justin's gone, let's do the whole show again.
Oh no.
Oh. I can
Oh my
make fun.
goodness.
He made fun when you were gone and we had Trace on.
Oh yeah?
We joked and had fun. So I'm gonna have fun with him gone. And
Good.
we have fun. I'm sure you joke when I'm not here. What? I got cat hair in my face.
Oh no.
I really wish I could remember what that story was. Oh, and Aaron Laura, yes, I saw you cannot find the password for the TWIS server. I will either recover it or send you a new one.
Oh no, that's a problem.
It's not a problem. What probably happened is that the site got hacked a while back. And so in the trying to fix all of that, I basically I deleted everybody's passwords.
Right.
We had to do new passwords. So that may have been part of it, but I will go and check, and I'll probably just redo your password while I'm in there, and I should probably redo my password, and I'll probably redo whatever that key code for WordPress is. But we need to do that. We gotta fix it. Time to update the security again. It's time. It's been new year, time for new passwords, time to update security. Okay, we can get on a voice chat.
Huh?
That would be good. And we could talk about it.
Is that also known as a telephone call?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Voice chat. I think I heard of those. I think you need something called a phone for that.
Noodles, your son stayed at 7 until 14 and then 14 to 19 and then full man. Okay, there's the jumping, I guess. Age jumping. Oh my goodness. Just not text only. Got it. Discord. I need somebody to come over and teach me how to use Discord.
What is that? I've never heard of that.
Newfangled things. There's always newfangled things that I
What
can't
is?
keep up. Discord is used by podcasters and by live streamers, and you can create. It's like community texting and messaging, but you can also do audio through it. So you can have voice calls. You can record conversations.
It looks like it's like a place. It's like AIM again. It's like AOL Instant Messenger, right? Because it's like chat rooms,
except with emojis. Lots of emojis.
My goodness, how funny!
I like learning things. Yeah, I just need somebody to sit me down and go, Kiki, for modern day podcasting, these are the things you need to learn. Okay. I'm gonna learn Twitch. I'm gonna learn Discord.
I'm gonna learn.
That's what I'm gonna do. I can do it.
Oh my goodness. Boy.
Yeah. Yes, okay. Discord started as a replacement for Skype by gamers who needed low latency and really fast voice communication. Yes. Yeah, it is something magical. People, a lot of people use it. Everybody uses it. Pretty amazing. Yeah. Oh, that's a link to a Discord server. Do I have to download things and get a new password and things that I'm going to have to remember?
Probably.
The Library of Lore. Oh, that's a good one.
Oh.
Nice. Okay.
I have
I'm
to
gonna
make
have
an
to
account.
make an account.
More social media. That's the opposite of what I want.
More social, more social, more. I will say I have been I don't know that I'm getting more done, but I've been a little bit happier. I've basically limited my social media to Twitter and Instagram, and I am pretty much checking Facebook for the This Week in Science account. And that's it these days.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, same. I don't. So I don't know if I said. I don't think I said last week. My 2019 resolution, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
But my thing I'm starting now, and I'm going to see how long I can do it.
Good.
is to not scroll in bed. Period.
Oh, that's good. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's a great idea.
So like if I'm going to mess around on social media, or if I'm going to post things, if I'm going to be productive, I can't be laying in bed, because first of
you're
all,
deathly ill.
yeah, it aggravates my my carpal tunnel really bad to be on my phone in bed. But it makes me go to sleep later, and then I wake up and I don't get right out of bed. I like wake up and I'm like, let me check all the platforms before I get in the shower. And like before I know it, 45 minutes has passed. I'm like, crap.
Late to everything.
But it's also, we've talked about it on the show. There have been studies that like there's the amount of positive like impulses going off in your brain from it are nowhere near equivalent to the amount of time spent or the amount of negative, right? So like they give you exactly enough to make you keep going, but not enough for it to like help your life in any way or your mood. So knowing that, I'm not going to sit and just scroll, and to do that at the beginning or the very end of my day can't be good for my brain either. So I'm just like, no. I haven't
That's good.
broken it yet.
Good job.
It's been a whole 9 days.
I read my books on my phone in bed because otherwise I have to have a light on with a paper book, and that keeps other people awake. So I like reading before bed, and it's on my phone. And so usually I start by scrolling, and then I say, I don't want to scroll. I need to be reading. And then I switch to reading.
That's great.
I read. And I've been reading lots of books lately. It's great. I read Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore last week.
That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very fun, actually. It's not really science-y at all, but it was a very fun book. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Everything we do doesn't have to be science.
Yeah, it's based in San Francisco too. So
that's very fun.
Yeah, so it's fun. Yeah, not everything I read has to be science.
Although, did you notice my new scarf?
Oh, and speaking of science book that you should read, it's called The Calculating Stars. Have you read it? Have you heard of it? Put this on a list. You need to read it.
Okay. Calculating Stars?
The Calculating Stars. Yes. Very good.
Ooh, a lady astronaut novel. Heck yeah.
It's so good. It's like Hidden Figures, but a fictional timeline. And it's amazing. Yeah.
Ooh, paperback, $12. Let's add to my shopping list.
Yes, put it on there.
Goodness. I also recently added to my Amazon shopping list my absolute favorite series of books from my teenage years.
Oh, what's that?
I suddenly remembered them and I was like, I need to see if they hold up. They're called the Enchanted Forest Chronicles. And the 4 books are, let's see if I can get it. Dealing with Dragons, Calling on Dragons, Searching for Dragons, and Talking to Dragons. And they're really good. So there's like the first 3 books follows a princess who ends up befriending a dragon, and
Right.
because she
Gotta
wouldn't
have a dragon.
she wouldn't be a princess, so she like ran away and ended up finding a dragon or whatever. So she was not ladylike in any way, and so she like ran away and blah blah blah. Classic tale. And then the 4th book is about a young boy who knows nothing about his parentage, who like doesn't believe in dragons or magic or anything like that, and then stumbles across the enchanted forest, runs into she's like a sprite or something like that, but she's like normal sized, but she's like a magical creature, a fire sprite, something like that, and she has like red hair. This is like all I can remember. And she's also very like unladylike and kind of kick ass, and they search for dragons, and it's great. I remember really liking it. So I will eventually pull the trigger and buy those and see if they hold up. It's kind of scary though, because there's always you run the risk of them not holding up, and then it's like a piece of you has died.
Right.
But it has 315 reviews on Amazon, and they're all 5 stars.
Well,
so
that's good.
I feel like there's a good chance.
It's not like what is it? The reflective vampire stories that so many people loved, but they really were bad books. Really
Interview with a Vampire? Those? Is that what you're talking about? No. Those are good, right?
Good books. Those were good books. The reflective vampires.
Twilight?
Twilight? That series? Is that the series?
Yeah.
There were like 3 movies or something.
Yeah.
Books.
I never read them.
Good. Count yourself lucky.
Yeah.
I have this compulsion when I start a series. It's like, maybe it'll get better.
Yeah.
And then I have to read the whole series. And whole time I'm like, this is really awful.
Yeah.
But I have to see if it's gonna get better.
Oh man.
It never does.
So I used to be that way, but the problem was that I only read consistently if I enjoy what I'm reading. And so I would find myself starting a book being like, oh, I don't like it that much, but I want to finish it. And then months later, I wouldn't have finished this book. And I'm like, eventually, a few years ago, I was like, this is a bad plan. And so now if I find myself not enjoying a book and I'm slowing down my frequency of picking up the book as a result, it goes out the window. It's done. And I move on to something else, because there's other books I could be reading in the amount of time I'm avoiding reading that book.
Right.
So I'm not as diligent of a reader as others. I think because also I love reading, but it's really hard for me to sit down and do it, because there's always something else that I could be doing, which is why books on tape are usually the way I consume books, because I can cook and clean and reorganize and art while I'm consuming the book.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, R and Laura, I love Dresden Files. Those books are amazing.
Oh.
I had those books, and I think I was moving, and I had read them a couple of times, and then I was like, I don't need these anymore. I think I sold them to somebody, or I just mailed them to somebody. I gave them to somebody. I was like, yeah, I don't need these anymore. Every once in a while now, I'm like, oh, those would be
it's
nice
also
to read.
a TV show?
It was a TV show that was canceled, unfortunately.
Mm.
I was sad about that. Oh, James Marsters reads them. Awesome. Yeah, they're great books. Love Dresden Files. Very fantasy. Yeah. What else have I don't know what else I've read. I read all sorts of things. I read all sorts of things. So many books these days. It's good. I'm trying to read more books. I've decided 2019 will be my year of reading and writing. Reading and writing. I'm
It's
going
great.
to
I love that.
try to do more of it.
This is the other book I have to read. Alive in Necropolis.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that.
That is, I heard about it right after I moved into my current apartment complex because it is a book that takes place basically in my apartment complex.
Ooh, what?
Yeah. So a young police officer struggles to maintain a sense of reality in a town where the dead outnumber the living. So I live in Daly City, but I literally...
Oh, that's right, because of the cemeteries.
Yeah, so touching Daly City, touching my apartment complex is Colma. And Colma, California is the, quote, cemetery city. The dead outnumber the living. And so the idea is that this person is like a rookie cop, and they start seeing ghosts while they're like investigating a murder or something like that. I don't know.
That's awesome. Well, there was a series like that I enjoyed at one point, but it was in London, and it got very fantasy based. What was that?
Yeah, I'm gonna add this to my list also. I share my Prime account with my dad. He's gonna be like, what are all these books on the shopping list? Sorry.
They're good books.
I just want these books, Daddy.
I just want to read these. Come on. Let's see. If you like Dresden Files, there's a series called Sandman Slim books by Richard Kadrey. And they're not quite as good, but they're pretty good. Lots of devil and the angels and iconography and stuff like that. Where is the one that I really liked that was the series?
Hot Rod, I think that's a weird question. I wonder if worldwide there are more dead people than alive right now. Well, I would say statistically, like 99% of humans are dead, right? Because but I mean, the question is how many are gravestones, right? Like how many are being stopped from decay by a very fancy coffin and have a headstone. You know, who's like stealing nutrients from the natural cycle. Not that I have any personal opinions about this or anything, but
of course not. Not that you do.
We're in the after show and Justin's not here, so I can say semi-inflammatory things.
Yep. And know that you probably won't be.
Just, you know, just saying we're all carbon and stuff, and it would be I like the idea of after I die becoming part of the carbon cycle.
Totally.
Like, I think that's so cool.
I do too.
Anyway.
I do too. Ben Aronovich is the Aronovich, and it's PC Peter Grant is the series. There's a bunch of them, and it's like this cop guy in London. And he gets all tied up in the supernatural with fairies and other things.
Oh my god, that's so fun. What's the name of the book?
Well, the author is Ben Aronovich, Aaronovitch. Ben Aronovich. See if I can.
Rivers of London? Does that sound right? Oh no, Lies Sleeping? Oh, no, Rivers of London is the name of the series.
Yes, Rivers of London is the series. There we go. Yes.
Midnight Riot.
Yeah, I really liked the characters, and I enjoyed it. Yes,
Midnight Riot is what would happen if Harry Potter grew up and joined the Fuzz. And that's by Diana Gabaldon. Wow. I think she's the author of the Outlander series, I think.
Mhm.
Isn't she? I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah. I am correct about that. Okay.
Yeah.
How
Books.
fun.
Books. Somewhere.
I'm just gonna head and add this to my shopping list.
Just add more books to the list. Yes. I'm looking for more. Yep. And then Scott Sigler, he does that. He does the horror.
Yeah.
Sci-fi horror.
I can't hang with the horror.
108 billion. What's 108 billion?
Oh,
Dead.
how many people have died?
108 billion. Whoa. Really?
So
That's
we're at
amazing.
7 billion,
Thanks
right?
for that link, Arnlore. Whoa.
So 94% of people have died.
Mm-hmm. Almost everybody's dead. All right. Yes, and Expanse is amazing. Ed from Connecticut. I love that series.
Oh, yeah. I have to
Expanse
get back to the
series.
show. I kind of forgot about it. I have to get back.
Yeah, I might just start over again. It's like every time there's a new season, I start at the beginning and have to watch all of it. Start all the way over
Man.
again and watch them all again.
I've been doing that with BoJack Horseman.
Oh God, that's hilarious.
Because they drop all the episodes at the same time, so I watch them way too fast, and then I don't remember. And there actually are kind of important plot points that happen. And so yeah, last season I had to rewatch the previous season before I watched the new one, and I was glad I did because a bunch of stuff happened that I was like, oh God,
I forgot about
that's
that.
important.
I didn't know. Ooh, Warehouse 13. Yeah, that was a good one too. I also want to watch Eureka again. Watch that one with Kai. Eureka was always good. The Librarians. I tried watching The Librarians with Kai, but it was a little bit too violent for him.
Oh no.
He's like, I don't like this show. All right. It's very definitive tastes. I read on the Kindle app. I read on my phone on the Kindle app, CR1. I have a Kindle, but I always forget to recharge it. So it's just like one more device. I really like having everything in the one device.
Yeah, I used to be like, oh, I'll carry like my books on tape on my old iPod, and I'll carry, just my podcasts on my iPhone because the books on tape take too much space. And then, the iPod would run out of battery, and I'd be like, I just got to a good part of a chapter, and
I gotta charge everything, all the things, and the time, and
yeah, I've just been focusing on the one device at this point.
Yeah. All in one.
Yeah.
It's good. Does anyone want a bread maker?
Are you shipping it? What's happening?
Right? No, I don't. I need to return it. My Marshall got me a bread maker for Christmas. He looked it up on the internet, found it's the best bread maker in the world. And I'm like, what? It makes jam. It's a bread maker that can make jam.
Okay. How come you're returning it?
It's so big.
Oh, it's too big.
It's like this extra device. Like, speaking of different devices, I'm like, well, if I want to make bread, I'll just make bread.
Yeah.
Like, I can mix things and let it rise and put it in the oven. It's
Growly Bear says, at least give it a chance.
Waka 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 waka. Yeah, I keep Kai doesn't want me to return it, and I keep saying I'm going to return it. I don't want it, and he said, why don't you want it, Mommy? I was like, it's so big. I don't want to put it in the kitchen. And he said, you can put it in my bedroom. He wants the bread maker in his bedroom.
Well, it'll smell good.
Right.
He also might start growing mold, though. It gets kind of moist.
Yeah, moist.
Man, Justin's not here. I wanted to tell him I've been watching Doctor Who.
Oh, you have? You can tell me.
Yeah, I started.
Where did you start?
With what's the guy's name?
What was his? The first guy, the baldish guy?
Yeah.
Yes, with Rose.
Yes. The origin of Rose.
Okay, good. You started.
That's where Brian told me I should start.
Good. He led you into the correct path. Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah.
Yes. Doctor Who? Which doctor? Yes.
It's great. It's very fun.
How far are you? Still on?
Still on that season. More than halfway. I saw Dalek, which was fun. I have seen them in pop culture, but I'd never experienced one yet. So that was very fun.
And exterminate. Yes. And then David Tennant, my favorite doctor, will come.
Everybody's favorite, I feel like.
Yes.
Brian keeps saying, like, all right, we got to get through this season so we can see David Tennant.
It's so, like, I tried to get Marshall into it ages ago, and he's just like, oh, what is this ninth Doctor Christopher, like the Christopher Eccleston season? He's like, this is cheesy. It's like low production value. He's like, why do you want me to watch this? He was like bored by it. And then,
oh no.
But I got him past that to David Tennant, and then he saw the light.
Yeah. No, I like it. I'm kind of worried about seeing David Tennant because I've only seen him in roles where he's a terrible person so far. He's a really good actor, but like in Harry Potter, he's a terrible person. And I saw him in Jessica Jones, which is like beyond terrible person. Like to the point where I was creeped out when I saw his face. And now I'm like, how am I gonna like you?
Because he's fantastic.
He'll charm me. He's a good actor, but
or maybe you won't like him, and you'll be a Matt Smith kind of person.
Which one is he?
He's the doctor after David Tennant. So the 11th doctor.
Oh, that guy with the chin and the bow ties.
The bow ties, yes. The chin.
Sorry, is that really bad? He has a very, very well-defined chin. That's all I'm saying.
He does. Yeah, there's Matt Smith. You'll like him. And then there's the next Christopher, right? Was that
the white-haired guy? He did a few seasons, right?
Yeah. The 12th Doctor is where I stopped watching because it got dark. And Kai was watching it, and I originally had been watching it by myself, and it was all fine. Peter Capaldi, thank you for keeping me straight, Cord. Yeah, Peter Capaldi, and he was good, but it got dark and mean and angry and not as funny and lighthearted anymore. And I was just kind of like, I don't. And my son was responding poorly to it, and I was like, we need to watch this.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to go back and watch it so that then I can watch the 13th Doctor, the first woman ever.
Yeah. That's very exciting.
Right. It gets a little lighter. I figured as much, but it was heavy. And I gotta start that up again. Maybe it'll be my inspiration.
Yeah. It's been very fun.
The Call of Doctor Who.
I like it because it has elements that could be horror, which I hate. But they approach it in such like a sci-fi, but also weirdly scientific way. Like they always have a scientific explanation, however dumb, even if it is like aliens. Yeah. But they always have some sort of explanation for why something was acting like a zombie or a ghost. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. Oh, is this explanation? But the Peter Capaldi episodes, there were some episodes in there where it was just straight up scary. So I will warn you, like in his, like it just, there was just some. There were the horror. They like took it to that
Uh-oh.
scary level, and it wasn't like, oh, this is
Okay.
explained funny and it was fun science explanation in the end. It was
Uh-huh.
like that was just a scary episode, and you didn't leave
Okay.
me with anything happy.
Uh-oh, that's good to know. I was very kind of shook watching the first few episodes, and I kind of turned to Brian. I was like, they really don't care about killing people in this show, do they? And he's like, yeah, no, people just
No.
die. You got to get over it. I was like, it was kind of like an earth-shattering realization of like, oh yeah, people just die in this show. They don't care. Like, yeah, it's been pretty fun.
Yay. There's so many good episodes. Oh my goodness. So much good story. So much good story.
I'm glad I ended up with somebody that wanted to watch them with me, because I just felt like, and even these silly ones, I don't think I would have liked to watch them by myself. They're just a little bit too they have kind of an eerie feel to them sometimes, where if you were like alone in a house in the dark watching them, it'd be a little too much for me.
Oh, so sensitive.
Yes. It's, you know why? It's not so much in the moment. It's dreams. Scary visuals show up in my dreams like clockwork, which is why I don't watch horror films. They just pop up.
This is going to keep me awake at night. I'm not going to go there.
Let's
not do it.
So, but it's been fun. Also, because I think Brian hasn't seen them in probably 10 years this season, so he forgets how a lot of the episodes end and stuff. Still,
the details.
Yeah.
Are more. I tend to watch them all alone in the dark.
Yeah, well, to each his own.
Everyone, yes, has their own. Speaking of dark, it's dark out.
It's very late. It's so late.
I've been enjoying having this conversation. Yeah. It's been enjoyable. And I look forward to 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sad to miss next week, but I'm really happy to have a nice long special trip with my mom. That's gonna be great.
It'll be fantastic.
So
yeah,
good.
you emailed and you're like, just a reminder. I was like, a reminder? Did you tell me in the first place?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's why. It's
thank you.
It's not. I know you're not going to trip about it, so it's fine.
I'm going to be cold tripping next week.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh, Stand Against Evil, I have seen and I loved it. Yes, Stand Against Evil. Blair, no, not so much. Yeah. Yeah, everyone, thank you for sticking with us for this late night conversation. It's been fun. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, day, wherever you are. And Blair, have a great holiday.
I will.
And we will see you next Wednesday. I will be on Twitch this Friday at 1 p.m. for my stream. If you want to catch me on my Dr. Kiki channel on Friday at 1 p.m. Well, that's what's going on now. So I'll see you later. We'll see you later.
Have fun next week.
Thank you. We will. Everyone will have fun. Wait, what button do I push? I always forget.